Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are, reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you for listening in at spacedoutradio.com on Spreaker, our new affiliate, the United Public Talk Radio Network, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. As we welcome you to tonight's show, broadcast out of Uncle Jimbo's cabin right here in the Great White North. Yes, you Americans are crashing our immigration websites as we speak, but it's not affecting what we do as we are live on this Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we do this thing every night of the week as we want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, extraterrestrial, conspiratorial, and so much more. If you like our theme music, you can thank the guitar god himself, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. Hey, you can follow me on Twitter, @Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find us on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we say hello to everyone taking part in the chat rooms on Revolution Radio, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Force Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. If you haven't signed up for the Space Travelers Club yet, it is time. It costs only $5 a month, and with that, your name gets entered into monthly prize draws. You get access to private group interviews, access to a special section on our website, and so much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. While on our website, you can read up on my latest blog. It's about my career in radio. Check out SOR's Spacewire with Eric Markham. And if you've had a weird sighting you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is waiting for you. All your personal information is 100% confidential. We want to thank our brand new affiliate as of last night, the United Public Radio Network on 107.5 FM in New Orleans, and their listeners from over 160 countries around the world. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this show. Please let me know what you think. You can find me all over social media. And remember, if you are listening in on the Double R Machine, Revolution Radio, it is the largest nonprofit online radio station online. Do us a favor, take the time to visit freedomslips.com and donate today. So normally, I have this script written out, and I'm doing this off the top of my head right now because there really is no point in trying to figure out what the hell is happening with the electoral ballots. Some people are showing Hillary's leading. Others are showing Trump Nation is going to be taking over the White House. It isn't over. We're going to keep you updated. But my job tonight, as much as we're going to keep you updated, is to try and take your mind away from everything. Look up. Look way up. If you're Canadian, you'll get that. We're going to talk extraterrestrials, ET contact, abductions, because our most popular show of the month, the ET Experience with Samantha Mowat, has begun. Samantha is not only a good personal friend of mine, but she, as I like to call her, is probably the best kept secret in ufology today. And it's not going to be much longer that I can actually say that, because Samantha is that talented. Her wisdom, her knowledge, her experience is getting out there very, very fast. She is just that talented when it comes to her experiences and how to break down those experiences to everyone out there. And like I said, if you have your tinfoil hat on, tonight's a good night, because one way or another, there's going to be a new president of the United States. If Hillary wins tonight, and I can hear you booing right now, at least 50% of you, you have to understand we are one step closer to disclosure. Never mind all the other stuff, but John Podesta signed on because he wanted disclosure from Hillary. That's part of his contract. If Trump gets in, well, we can just crumple up that disclosure piece of paper, because he's going to build a wall above the ground to keep the aliens out, because they would be illegals. So you're surrounded, America, with walls, except on the Pacific Coast and East Coast. You're a little screwed there. But otherwise, we're going to keep you right involved with this. The show must go on, and we will continue to look towards the topic of alien contact and abduction. Samantha's website is Samantha Mowat, Mowat spelled MOWAT.ca, and Samantha will kick things off right now. Samantha, hello, how are you?
Hey Dave, I'm doing great. And I love your comment about Trump making a wall that's going to completely cover the states to keep the aliens out. I was trying so hard not to laugh when you were saying that.
Well, I mean, if he's going to build a wall along Canada and the U.S. border, and he's going to build one along Mexico, we got to keep them illegal Pleiadians and Greys out, so there's going to have to be a wall up there.
It's just hilarious. Good job. Nice job taking a very stressful situation and political comment and actually putting a sense of humor on it and making people laugh. I like that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And, you know, there's been a lot of happenings. You went to Scotland. Last time you were on the air with us, you were actually in Scotland, which I highly, highly thank you for actually doing that. You didn't have to do it. I even offered you if you wanted to take a month off. You're like, no way, I got to do this. So from the bottom of my heart and from everyone who listens to you on a monthly basis, I want to say thank you, my very, very good friend, for doing that, because that really shows the type of person and the type of care you have about this subject.
You're most welcome, Dave. It's my favorite subject in the world, and I was so happy to get to talk to you guys about it. And right before Halloween, how perfect is that? Perfect timing to talk about paranormal and all the crazy things that go on in this world.
Did you get to go out trick-or-treating with yourself? Because you could still probably pass as a young lady.
I did go trick-or-treating. I dressed up as Catwoman. It was so much fun.
Excellent. I hope you got some treats, even though I know you're quite vegan and probably wouldn't eat them.
Oh, there's chocolate. Yeah, I'm going to eat it.
Okay.
And getting back to point.
Well, that is something I've just learned about you. I do have to say, it is kind of interesting. If you go to the Canadian immigration website right now, you're not going to be able to get in. America, you've crashed Canada's immigration website. And, you know, I don't know whether to laugh or cry about that. I mean, I love my American friends and my listeners, but on the flip side, you know, crashing the website of little old Canada here, I think that's kind of funny.
Well, Dave, we've got space for them, and we'd love to have them. So if they want to come on up and join us with our igloos and dog sleds, we'll take them. We can all go Bigfoot hunting together. Or searching, rather, not hunting.
I have done that recently. Since you and I talked,
Yeah?
I do have to send you pictures of footprints.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see them.
Yes, yes. And we went back Sunday. I actually brought my dad. He was up here visiting, and we went out Bigfoot hunting on Sunday. We went to where we found one print. It had been kind of worked over a little bit by a couple of deer tracks. And previous to when we found it, we actually set up some rock sculptures, just piling rocks. Nothing has moved. But the very interesting point about it is one of my Bigfoot partners, Mike Schmidt, who runs the SOR Sightlines report, he actually was out looking for prints about a week ago.
Oh, wow.
And he gets stopped by a conservation officer. And the conservation officer comes up and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And Mike says, "I'm looking for prints." And the guy says, "Well, what kind of prints are you looking for?" And Mike I might as well tell him, "I'm looking for Bigfoot prints." They talked for the next half an hour. The young gentleman basically said to Mike that he will never admit whether or not he believes in it because, as wearing the badge, they are not allowed to discuss matters of the cryptid. But he did say that he has seen some weird and strange things, and if anything or any type of report pops up, he's going to let Mike know to give us some indication of where we have to go.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. What a good insider to give you some possible leads.
It is a very, very good insight, and, we're going to continue on with that. The problem is, apparently the hot spot around where I live, right in the sticks of British Columbia, right in the middle, throw a dart, you'll hit us, okay? There's an old mine shaft way up in the mountains about an hour's drive away, and this is apparently, and it's funny because this conservation officer pointed Mike in that direction. I've had other people point us in that direction, and First Nations have pointed us in that direction. The problem that I have going into that area is apparently the grizzly bears like that area too.
Okay. So why don't you talk with the elementals and the earth energy that's there and give an offering to the grizzly bears? I will leave you fish here. Leave me and my family alone when we go out there. Or me and my friends alone as we're exploring and searching.
Well, we're going to do that, but either way, it's one of those areas where they do tell people it's probably best to go in armed. And, it's a real conundrum because from what I have learned, Bigfoot does not like gunpowder, does not like guns. But on the flip side, we have to let him know and let him understand that there's a real safety mechanism that has to go along with that. And with only one of the three of us having a rifle, it's a little tedious right now. So I may next year have to make that choice that I don't want to make, and that is get my gun license.
Well, let me know when you're doing it. I need to get mine because we do have guns. My husband has guns. And really, Dave, if it's just for self-defense, then I think it's probably okay, and I think Bigfoot would understand. I think your guides would understand, the ETs would understand.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Well, they still contact me, and I've got about, oh God, I don't even know how many in the house. So don't worry about it. It's going to be okay.
I'm not, okay, I take your word on everything. Damn it, you're never wrong. You're never wrong when it comes to this stuff.
Thank you, I think.
Anyhow, you have quickly shot up the ranks as being probably our most popular show per month. So thank you for that, and thank you to our listeners for bringing this in. Did you ever think that you and me talking extraterrestrials sitting back in the old landscape of the Lower Mainland, that this would be possible?
It never really occurred to me. I was wondering, I knew I had to spread what I knew about extraterrestrials and multidimensional somehow. And I'm glad that when you and I first started, and I started to try with library radio, and then you were trying with spaced out radio, that yours really worked out and mine didn't, because I look at what you're doing and how incredible of a job you're doing, Dave, and I'm like, wow, I could not do the radio business the honor or the capability that you're doing And I'm glad that that door got shut for me and that you and I are able to share all this in such a fun manner. So I'm excited by it. I'm glad this worked out this way.
Hey, Sam, I'm getting a lot of feedback on your end. I'm not sure.
Yes.
It sounds like static, almost like you're near a fan or something.
Nope. The only thing I can think of is air purifier. Can you turn the air purifier off? I'm just going to get him to turn off the air purifier. It's several rooms away, but that could be what they're hearing.
Maybe.
Sorry. Allergy season, right?
Yes, I know. I don't know if that's it, though. Could you move a little? Are you really close to your microphone?
No, I've got my headset on. Is this better? I'm trying to different.
Damn it, no, I don't know what's going on. I really don't. Is it your end, or is it the Revolution Radio end?
I hear nothing on my end. Let me see here. I don't know, Dave. Do you want me to try a different headset?
Let's just rock and roll it. If it gets any worse, what I'll do is I'll call you on your cell phone. How about that?
Okay, I can always sign on to Skype that way. Let me know.
All right. So, normally we talk extraterrestrials with you because that's kind of your gig. And what I'm wondering is when it comes down to the ET experience, when it comes down to the experiences people are having, how do they know that they are actually having them? Some people may suspect it's happening, Samantha, but we really don't know. We don't know if it's a dream state. We don't know if it's truly happening. How can we tell?
1 second, Dave. Sorry. Pardon me. There are a number of ways that you can tell if you're having contact with these extraterrestrial and multidimensional beings. The first off is when let's say you're watching TV or you're watching Netflix and you see an extraterrestrial or a multidimensional or something along those lines come onto the screen, the first thing you'll notice if you are someone who has contact is you will have a very strong reaction. It may be a sense of love and connection, or it could be a sense of fear and trepidation. So pay attention to how you feel. The next thing you really want to pay attention to is most encounters, for the majority of people that is, occur at night, typically between 10 o'clock at night and 4 and 5 in the morning. And the reason being is people have their energy at more of a calm state. Their guard is let down. So this is when you'll have either astral projection encounters where your soul leaves your body at night and you end up seeing ETs or going on craft, or they will come collect you, which is the abduction aspect. The reason why they typically come to get people at night when their bodies are asleep is they're able to get a clear read where exactly that person is. Their homes are quiet, and they're able to actually come collect them and interact with them in a way that these beings have more control over the situation. In which case, so let's go first with not remembering the encounter. You may wake up in the morning and you may be like, I had a really funny dream about ETs last night. And unless you take a moment and start writing down what you remember about what you dreamt, you may just dismiss it and think, oh, well, that's just a funny dream. I'm not going to think twice about that. But another way you may notice is you go to the shower and then you may notice puncture marks on your body or odd scratches in nail patterns that aren't human. So either very sharp-looking scratches that are quite thin, or you could have these really odd pattern bruises, things of that nature, are things that I've found with my abduction experiences when I don't necessarily remember exactly what happened. So another way in which you could have these, and let's say you're remembering your encounters, well, you could be someone who's having a suspicion that, hey, I think I'm having contact, but I don't know for certain. You may be fearful when you go to bed because something inside you, especially if these beings are monitoring you or doing regular checkups on you or things of that nature, collecting regularly, you may feel a bit of apprehension when you're about to go to sleep at night. You may feel comfortable in the daytime, but once that sun starts to set, you may lock your doors and double check to make sure that they're locked before you go to bed, and things of that nature are very common for people who are having contact. And it can take people several years or even many years to put together all the bits and pieces, these clues that actually say you are having contact, you are someone who's experiencing these things. And when they do finally come to that realization, there can be a lot of denial as well. So for most people, it can be a bit of a learning curve of learning to accept that they're a contactee and trying to get an idea of how they feel about it. So,
the reason why I ask this is about 3 weeks ago, I woke up in the morning and I was stumbling like I was absolutely intoxicated. I remember going to bed after the show, and I remember feeling dazed and confused, waking up at about 7:15. So much so that the wife was actually like, "Are you okay?" And I said, I feel like I'm drunk. And I said, I honestly feel like I got taken last night. I'm so confused. I feel just absolutely not with it this morning. Are there symptoms that people can look for to know if they've been taken or not?
Oh, undoubtedly. Depending upon what's happening to you when you go on craft, there can be a whole variety of symptoms. So, Dave, when you're waking up the next morning and you're feeling like you could be drunk, or you're all of a sudden extremely nauseous, or you have a pounding migraine, you could have been taken. And the reason I say this is if they're doing any form of healing procedure on you, or they are checking something within your body, or things along that nature, the devices that they use, depending upon the group, can affect you in different ways. So a lot of the gray beings, their technology is not as advanced as when you're dealing with a mantis being that could be healing you or working on you. And so I find that if you're having encounters with the grays, they can leave a lot of, well, how can I explain it nicely? When they're doing any form of experimenting or monitoring or healing on you, you can have residual symptoms after the event occurs. So sometimes, like when I had my encounter earlier this year where I didn't want to have that implant put back in me, I woke up to a pounding migraine the next day. I was nauseous all through the morning, and I knew it was like an aspect of that contact experience being felt in my physical body. It was the after effect of it. Versus when I've dealt with a mantis and they've done their healing procedures, I don't tend to have as much of a physical symptom, maybe a little bit of dizziness, lightheadedness, which is very similar to what you experienced the next morning that Mrs. Spaced Out Radio pointed out. So really you can have things like this depending upon what they do to you. Some of these beings work heavily with crystals, and when they're putting crystals inside your body, or they're using crystal beds, you could have a sensation of being tingly or vibrating for days after they are working on your body. So it really depends on which group you're interacting with. I find that when it comes to working more with Pleiadians and having their healing going on with your body, you're not going to have the same symptoms and physical disturbances afterwards, because these beings have an idea of what our human bodies are capable of handling and the effects of it, versus the Greys, the Mantis, the Reptilians. Their physical components and their bodies are so different from ours. What affects them may not affect us, and so on and so forth. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I totally understand with what you're saying, and you know what, it's one of those things where, you know, I think a lot of people get confused with this, Samantha, because one of the things that we see going on a daily basis with people who are having these experiences is the confusion that they have. Was it a dream? Was it not a dream? Did I actually go? And I know there's also a lot of people like myself who do not remember their dreams, therefore can't recount, even in a diary, what happened. All they can do is mention the feeling of what happened. So how do you get people who maybe cannot remember their dreams but know something may have taken place just because they recognize the symptoms? How do you get them to record the act?
Well, there's a couple different things you can do if you want to unlock those memories and really determine, hey, was I taken at this event or was I not taken? You could find a really good registered hypnotherapist to regress you, which I do find can help people if they just want to unlock that block that is placed within their mind around encounters. You may only have to go one time to be able to recall all of this information and have it come forward to your conscious mind. But as to whether you actually want to open that door or not is completely up to you. Some people like it, some people choose to get it closed afterwards. But Dave, if you're really wanting to remember what's happening, do you remember how when you and I first met, you told me how you had placed something on your nightstand where, was it chips? I believe it was like poker chips or something that you had stacked?
Yes. And they never moved. They never moved.
No, but you can do stuff like that, and some beings will do that for you. But what about your other encounter you had a couple of days ago?
Well, and this is what I was going to get up, and I was saving this for tonight's show. I wear, because I am of Ukrainian heritage, I wear an Orthodox cross. So, obviously, everybody knows the Christian cross. The Orthodox cross has a couple other bars on it. And I sleep with it, and I sleep with a t-shirt on as well. And 2-3 days ago, when I woke up in the morning, I didn't feel like anything had happened. But when I woke up and I went to turn my alarm off, I looked on my nightstand, and I said, well, that looks weird. And then I felt on my chest. My necklace wasn't on my chest. And here it was, sitting on my nightstand, wrapped around in a really neat, tight circle.
Wow.
I have no idea how that necklace got off me. I have no idea how it got on there, because it's something that my father gave me as a gift. It was his, and it's something that I am very proud of, something that I wear. I don't take it off if I don't have to. And all of a sudden, here it is in a nice circle right on my nightstand. What the hell happened? That's all I need to know.
I think you have an idea of what happened, Dave. But as to whether you're fully willing to be like, oh my God, this did happen, and something either telekinetically or physically remove the necklace from me is another matter. You got to remember, Dave, a lot of these beings that do come work with us, that are aware of our family lineages, that follow us from generation to generation, tend to view us in a very loving manner. Now, we're talking about the positive ones. We're not getting to the negative ones tonight, so let's just not even get into that part. But the ones that do care about us will also have consideration for our possessions and the things that we hold dear. So it would probably feel the vibration of, oh wow, Dave really loves this necklace. Every time we come to see him, he's worn it. So let's take this off, that way it doesn't get damaged while we're doing some scan on his body or doing something else.
Samantha, I'm going to get you to go over to your cell phone, because this background noise, we can barely hear you.
I'm going on to Skype on there right now. Okay, give me 1 minute, Dave.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay. So we're going to reconnect with Samantha Mowat, because that background noise was just a little tough. So let's hope that when we get her back connected here momentarily, that we can actually not have that background noise, because you know what? Samantha's message is just so important that we want to make sure that you're getting the most of this, because she is only on once a month. Man, if we get the opportunity to get her on twice a month, we'd have to check that out, because I just think she's that good. Are you there, Samantha? I'm not getting her now. Let's see, we're going to reconnect that, and we'll try it again. Worst case scenario, what I will do is I will actually call her on her cell phone, and you might hear a little bit of a ringing tone. Oh, now her line is busy. Let's try something else here, because there's always a way, man. There is always a way, and I want to make sure that you guys have this opportunity to hear her fully. So let's work on this. Let's try this once more on her Skype. Skype is not working, so we're going to try her on a voice line, because that's just the way we're going to have to do it, it looks like. So bear with me. Oh, she seems to be trying to call in here as well. So let's try this again. As her and I apparently are playing a telephone tag on Skype here. Let's try this one more time. No, she's showing as busy. Okay, we're going to try her phone line here. So bear with me a couple of seconds. I know we're all eager out of all the things to happen tonight. Darn it. Let's just blame the election. Can we do that? Can we do that? Do you mind? I'm for it if you are. 1 second. As we give you the play-by-play, I'm sitting here looking on my phone right now for her number, and I'm going to dial it right now. And we'll go like this. Let's see if this works. You may hear a dial tone coming up. There we go. And hopefully she'll pick up.
Hello?
There you are. We got you.
Hi. Yay.
And you
Better?
sound 100% better. 100% better. Anyways.
Well, okay, please continue.
We're talking about the gold necklace on my nightstand, and it's wrapped up in a nice tight little circle. I know what happened. I really do. Deep down, I could sit here and tell you point blank. I'm pretty sure I was taken, because when you've had as many experiences as I have had, Samantha, now, you kind of learn to know that when you have something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, that something has happened. So I'm going to chalk that up that something happened.
I agree completely. And Dave, another sign that your listeners may be accustomed to is quite often, if they're like me, they'll find that right after they go to sleep, they'll end up kind of a sleepwalk a fair bit, so they can find themselves hearing something and thinking that, like, what was it? Gosh, 3 nights ago or so, I went to sleep, and within 5 or 10 minutes, as clear as day, I heard a knock on my front door. And I was fairly out of it. Like, I thought for sure, okay, I thought I heard something. I was getting up to go get the door, and my husband looks at me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Someone's at the door." And he said, "No, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "There was a knock at the door." He's like, "No, there's not." And I look at my dog, and she's sleeping right on the floor where she normally sleeps. And a little light bulb went off in my head. How many times do multidimensionals and extraterrestrials get us to sleepwalk out of our homes if they need us to be picked up and are having difficulty getting us from the inside of our house? And then it made me think back to my childhood and how my parents used to complain all the time that they'd find me out of places, at a sliding glass door, at the front door, at the top of the stairs, all these really weird areas. And I find that sleepwalking and sleep talking seem to be things that are very common for people that are having these encounters. If you are curious about whether you're having encounters and you're thinking beings could be coming into your home, if you feel them around you a fair bit, you are able to set up a recording device facing you in your bedroom where you sleep and record yourself throughout the night if you're concerned that you are being taken. I have heard of a lot of contactees and abductees doing that and seeing really odd paranormal and multidimensional things going on. But that's another matter entirely.
Well, let's get to some questions from our audience, because in the end, it's all about between you and them, and little old Davey will just take his seat way back in the back row here for a couple of minutes. John is asking, Samantha, have you been informed as to what your life will be like when the body you have now ceases to function, and who, if anyone, will greet you there?
So, John, I'm assuming you're asking about when I die, what's going to go on that way? I haven't bothered asking about what's going to happen to me when I die, because I've made it very clear to the beings that I work with that I do not want to come back here, and that I will be doing everything in my power to evolve to a point that I do not need to stay here and do not need to come back. What they have shown me, whenever I have asked about death and the other side and things of that nature, when in regards to myself, they often show me, hey, look, we are always here to greet you, but you are at a point where you need to stay here and you need to get these things done. It doesn't seem like the majority of people are vibrating at a resonance that they can escape from the earth with everything that's placed around it at this time, but that should be changing. That net should be coming down. So that's another matter entirely. Most people, from what I've experienced, will end up seeing deceased loved ones, will end up seeing their spiritual teams, so everything from angelic beings to fairies to extraterrestrials, multidimensionals, all sorts of really fun things like that. I've never heard of anyone seeing garden gnomes, so that should make you happier. But
damn garden gnomes. Don't get them started on them damn garden gnomes, Samantha.
I totally couldn't help it. I had to jab there. But it does seem like the majority of people quickly after passing will see beings they recognize. But often when people see them, they will go with these beings, but some people do become a little bit more fearful and can become wandering souls for a short period of time. So that's okay.
Let's get to another question. This one comes from Casey. And Casey is asking, and by the way, Casey, thank you so much for joining us for the first time in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Good to have you along for the ride. I know you're a big fan of this show and a big fan of Samantha's, so thank you. Casey is asking, could seeing craft on a weekly basis be one of the symptoms to being known that you're being taken?
Yes. Typically, when you're having a period of time where you're having a lot of ET encounters in person, you will see craft quite frequently. That is there's two reasons behind that from what they've explained to me. The first one is that they want you to be aware of their presence, but they also want for you to become very familiar with their energetic signature being near you in a way that is seen as non-threatening and on a way that makes you comfortable. Part of the objective with the majority of the extraterrestrials is to make people comfortable with their presence on a conscious level, not just on the subconscious or partially hazy state that most people do have their extraterrestrial multidimensional encounters.
I think Joe has an interesting comment. It's not a question, but I'm going to steal it as one. Joe is asking or saying he's always heard that if you see a UFO, you've been on a UFO. What is your thoughts on that?
I don't necessarily think that everyone who sees a UFO has been on a UFO. What about those massive sightings in Mexico where you have thousands of people who are seeing craft while they're in the city? I mean, not necessarily would all of those people have had experiences on craft. They may have a recognition of these beings and have past lives with them, but I'm not necessarily agreeing with that comment, Joe. Sorry.
I'm sure he'll give me heck now for asking that, but that's okay.
I think, but no, Joe, that's actually a really good point. I'm glad that you brought it up. A lot of people would not necessarily think of that connection, that correlation, if we don't ask questions and actually look at everyone else's different perception with their experiences about whether they've seen craft or not and whether they've had encounters or not. How can we figure this out together? So good job.
He's got really nice hair, too, and I know he voted today because he showed off his sticker on social media that he did. Getting to Serena's question, she is asking, can multiple groups or types of extraterrestrials abduct or interact with the experiencer?
Yes, and you can have multiple groups interacting separately. Like, think of it this way. You can have encounters with Pleiadians, reptilians, greys, mantis, in their own individual groups, but you can also have encounters where you're having, let's say, mantis and reptilian, or mantis and gray, or Pleiadian and gray, or Pleiadian and mantis, but you aren't necessarily going to have, like, I've never seen Pleiadians and reptilians in the same place, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. For me, I've had encounters where I have multiple groupings while interacting at the same time. And what that has taught me is that these beings can have the same objectives when it comes to certain things. Like, I realize that a lot of the greys can have similar objectives when it comes to understanding the human body, health, botany, things of that nature, as the mantis beings, because both have shown me an interest in plants and the way that people interact not only with these plants, but the health aspects that are going on within the people who are more conscious of the plant energy, things of that nature. Although that said, both of those beings are very flora-oriented, versus when it comes to reptilians, typically I've only seen them by themselves, but I know of quite a few experiencers who've had encounters with the chicken claw greys and reptilians. So really, depending upon your contact in groups, you may meet different types of beings. Some people only meet one type, and other people tend to draw in a whole bunch of different types. I'm not entirely sure what the reason being behind that is.
We got an update from Joe on his question. He mentions here he's not talking about mass sightings, but individual sightings.
Oh, individual sightings? I would definitely have to say that from my experience at least, and the people I know, the people that have seen craft are all contactees. So yes, outside of mass sightings, I do agree.
And once again, we will take your questions. Just post them in one of the chat rooms following Spaced Out Radio tonight. Always a pleasure to get your questions on the air. When it comes to the abduction, okay, there's a lot of things we do if we say look at the paranormal side of things, Samantha, where we can set up game cams, we could set up all sorts of FLIR cameras, audio recording. Some people will even go as far as putting, flour on the floor to see what walks in. Yet when it comes to extraterrestrial abduction, we don't seem to do any of that. Should people who think they've been abducted actually maybe set up their room to see what they can capture?
Typically, I don't see the point, to be completely honest with you, when it comes to the extraterrestrials. And the reason being is you could have an experience tomorrow night, and then you may not see these beings for 2 or 3 years. So if you're putting flour on your floor every night, one, that's a really expensive thing to do. And two, it can take a long time before you're actually having them come to see you again. With some people, they only see them every couple of years. For other people, they see them weekly, monthly, or any other increment. So I don't necessarily see the point in doing it as frequently as that. But if you are noticing that you're having what's known as cluster encounters, so you're having an encounter today, and then you have another encounter in 2 or 3 days, and you have another one a week later, and then you're finding that your encounters, like if you do what I do, I write on my calendar with a little red marker, I take the calendar and I outline a square saying, okay, I had an encounter this day and I had an encounter this day. And I look at the end of the year to see where they're clustering. And it gives me an idea of when I'm having my encounters, how many am I typically having within a cluster? Which groups are coming to see me more often? What is going on during these different times that are provoking necessarily these different groups coming in? So if you're having a cluster encounter, like let's say typically you have 4 or 5 gray encounters in a year, and they tend to be in groups of 2. Then you may go, okay, I just had a gray encounter last night. For the next week, I'm going to have a camera on every night to see if I can catch something. In which case, it could be worth your time to record or to put flour down if that's what you feel most comfortable doing.
Do you see, though, where a lot of people aren't comfortable with that because they just don't know? They are just not wanting to know that answer, Samantha, because this opens up a whole new realm that many people are not ready to admit exists yet, or admit that they have been part of this process. I
can understand that completely. I mean, really, there is a huge fear of the unknown when it comes to most people. But I'd like for them to take this into account if they are having this fear of, am I actually being taken, in which case is it scary? Isn't it worse to not know what's going on, to not know what beings you're encountering, to not know how often they're going to come, and to live in this state of perpetual concern, rather than actually getting an idea of, okay, I remember this encounter, I remember this when I was 15, and this when I was 17, and this when I was 30. Wouldn't it be better to actually write that down and get an idea when you suspect you could have been taken? That way you can know roughly how often to expect them. I mean, to me, it makes more sense. But that's okay, right?
Well, I think so. Shar has an interesting question here. She is asking, Samantha, do you know of anyone who has ever kept record enough to see if a certain type of person is being abducted?
Outside of the people that are Rh negative, I don't really know of any other records generally being taken, or of people typically being more aware of which are being taken. I do recall hearing something about people monitoring different Aboriginal groups because of the traditions that have been passed down about their star brethren and so on. But beyond that, Shar, I'm sorry, I don't know of any others. Oh, that's not true. My guys are correcting me right now. Mary Rodwell. There's a woman in Australia named Mary Rodwell who is collecting information about the different people who are being taken, everyone from, typically she specializes in children, young adults seem to be where she wants more of her knowledge coming from because of the new children coming in. But she does collect data from everyone from infancy to age of passing. She wants as much data about that as possible. Thank you, Char, for bringing that up, and thank you guys for correcting me.
All right, I think our resident scientist, Eric Markham, has a really good question here. And he's asking a personal question about you. Mm-hmm. And he is saying, Samantha, does your cycle have anything to do with the time that the encounters happen? He's asking and wondering if estrogen and progesterone and follicle-stimulating hormone may be triggering them to visit.
Okay, so you're wondering about my menstrual cycle. Oh, no problem. Typically, I find that I don't generally have a lot of encounters when I am menstruating. If I'm, like, let's say, Eric knows that I'm having really funny cycles. I'm having a lot of encounters, let's say, with beings like Greys or Mantis or something, and I've had coitus, and I noticed that my body's showing signs of pregnancy, in which case then I would tend to have cluster encounters, but then after that I would tend to either have an encounter where I see Greys and remember something medically going on, or I'd see a Mantis and remember something medically. I'm not sure if you've, Eric, seen my YouTube video about the multiple women being taken onto ET craft for a hybridization thing, but in that encounter, my body was showing signs of pregnancy, and every few months, within about, for about 3 years, my body kept showing, feeling like it was pregnant, and I'd have nausea, I would have a lot of encounters, and then my period would be late by a few days or several days here and there, and then all of a sudden I would stop having those symptoms, and my period would be quite heavy, but then my encounters would slow down for a bit. That is what I've noticed around that. Although it doesn't seem to make much of a difference when it comes to my reptilian encounters or my Pleiadian encounters, but with the Greys and the Mantis, they do seem to be more interested in, the female reproductive hormones and around children. I'm not sure if that helps you. If not, please ask further detail regarding whatever area you're curious, Eric.
Do you find that most women experience the same thing that you do? That around your menstrual cycle that there isn't as much contact?
I don't know, but I can ask over the next month and get back to you guys regarding that. I do know several other female contactees, and we tend to be quite open about what we're experiencing.
You mentioned moments ago that you have had pregnancy-type symptoms. Do you think you were pregnant at that time, or do you think you maybe miscarried, or do you think that you were maybe pregnant and they, whoever they are, took it?
I would say the majority of the times it was pregnant and they took it. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. To be completely honest with you, I know some women get very emotional by it, some get very upset, and I can understand how they're feeling that way. But for me, if you think about the way the different fetuses are and the way the different way extraterrestrial babies or partially extraterrestrial babies would live in this world, if their DNA isn't at a point where they'd be able to live in a healthy way and in a very good way, why would I want to force that baby to stay with me when it would be better with them? To me, that wouldn't make sense. So I'm okay with that.
Do you feel it's kind of your job in order to help them out that way? Because, like you stated, a lot of females who do have their reproductive organs violated, they feel that there's something missing. They feel that there is something not right, and, they don't feel whole as a woman.
I feel some of those women may be violated, may be taken advantage of by these beings. Some of them are not necessarily dealing with nice beings. But for the most part, the ones that I've dealt with are quite respectful towards me and what they do. And maybe I'm coming at it from a different understanding with my communication with these beings and what have you, but I don't feel violated or objectified or anything along those lines. I'm completely at ease with it. It's just something I knew from a very young age, Dave. It was the early 90s, so I was quite young, like maybe 5, 6, somewhere in there. And I saw on TV this woman who had these ETs coming, and she was crying about these beings taking her baby. I remember knowing inside me that, okay, they're going to end up doing that to me at some point, and I was okay with it. It didn't create a sense of fear or panic within me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay.
Do you see where a lot of women do get upset, though? And if you've dealt with women like that, how have you had this conversation, if ever, with them?
Well, I can only think of one circumstance where I've talked to someone who's had something along those lines going on. And she was hysterical over it because she was someone who had a very difficult time getting pregnant and wasn't holding on to her pregnancies. And to this day still does not have a child, so she is resentful towards them. But how I've dealt with it is they are typically encountering women whose soul origin is similar to theirs, who have made contracts with them on the other side or on some level that they are willing to undergo this during this lifetime that would be beneficial for both parties. And so for me, I look at it from that aspect where I remember a lot of my soul contracts. I'm okay with this going on. But they may not have that recollection of the soul contract, and that may be where their fear and anger is coming from their remembrance on this side, but not remembering that side. All you can do is they can do a couple things if they're having this going on. They can tell the beings that they don't want to do that anymore, that they have no right to take their children, in which case benevolent ones will stop. And they can also burn contracts in all directions of time to try to get rid of that. Those are the only things that I've suggested to this one woman who's going through it. And she hasn't had them taking children since, but she has not been pregnant since either.
So with this one woman that you do know, do you believe that maybe they have scarred her reproductive organs from being able to conceive again?
I don't necessarily think they've scarred it because, Dave, wouldn't I have scarring then? Wouldn't I have difficulty getting pregnant? They are typically if you're, okay, I'm going to put this to you very bluntly. If you're having predominantly grays messing around or varieties of grays, not Andromedans, not Arcturians, but grays, think Zeta Reticula, messing around with reproductive organs, they are not typically as gentle nor as skilled as the other extraterrestrial races, and they can cause damage. They do not have the technology, typically, to be able to make it so that it is less invasive. Versus beings such as the mantis beings, they are more capable when it comes to not only their technology, but they are more skilled workers, and the ones that tend to be working on humans are specifically focused on the human body and on medicine. They are the beings that are not going to scar you and cause damage. If you're going to have any work done on you by an extraterrestrial, you're going to want a being like that doing it. So if you are having grays work on you, yeah, you're probably going to have scarring. It could impede your ability to reproduce, and I can see being angry at that if I was someone who was going through them taking my children. But in my experience, it's been typically mantis being the ones who have taken my children from me on that side. And that's okay, because they take them as the orb, the energy bubble that is the child, out, and there is no physical issue for me when that is going on. Typically, I remember being quite happy when things like that are occurring, because I'm happy to see my child, happy to see it being in good hands. But that is from my remembrance and my point of awareness.
When you have visited your star children, do they recognize you?
Yes. And it's actually quite lovely when you end up seeing them. There's not normally a lot of verbal communication going on, but there's a strong soul recognition the moment you make eye contact with them. There's that energetic remembrance. You feel the same thing when you haven't seen one of your children for like a week or so, and then all of a sudden you see them and your heart chakra expands and you have that feeling of in connection, joy to see each other again. There's a recognition. And for me,
is there love, though, Samantha?
I find so, yes. I feel a sense of energy coming from them that is similar to love. Not necessarily love in how we see it, But their version of love, yes.
Does it feel the same?
It feels very similar, but not the same. They don't have the same depth of emotion that we do. Our variety of human has a huge range of emotional energy. If you think about the way these different beings are, and how you have the wise grandparent who doesn't have a whole broad spectrum of emotion because they are very calm and patient. And then you think about the parent who's more reserved or just more in control, but not as much in control as, say, the grandparent. And then you think about that teenager whose emotions are flying in every direction at once. And one moment they're happy, and one moment they're sad, and they feel love, but they feel love differently than the parents and the grandparents. And that's kind of how I see humans. Our variety of human is like that emotional teenager, and we cannot, seem to keep our emotions at a consistent level for very long without a lot of conscious effort. Versus these beings, they tend to be more like a parent or a grandparent. They tend to have a better control of their emotions, but they also have a more limited range of emotion. So when they're expressing love, it feels different than when we're expressing love, but you can still feel that energy, that love behind it. But it's a different kind of love.
Very understandable. And Samantha, we only got about 30 seconds left. Samantha Mowat does the ET Experience here every second Tuesday of the month on Spaced Out Radio. We will be right back with more Samantha Mowat after this.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries, so tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mowat. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Reveal Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you along for the ride. We welcome in everyone in the United Public Radio Network listening live on 107.5 FM in New Orleans. I know that you have a lot of stuff on your mind right now with the election, but thank you for allowing us into your community as of last night and moving forward. Much appreciated. If you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. If you're a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club, Bill Cardwell has set the password. You got to get ready for it. Contrapuntal. Contrapuntal is your password. What it means, nobody knows. If you could put it into a sentence, I'd appreciate you putting it in one of the chat rooms. Very curious about that, but contrapuntal is your password. Thank you, Bill Cardwell, who sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Hey, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can listen to our grand music maestro, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. You can read up on my latest blog. You can check out Eric Markham's SOR Space Wire. If you've had a weird sighting that you can't explain, fill out the Sightlines report. Mike Schmidt would like to interview you. and so much more. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we bring back Samantha Mowat. She has our most popular show here on Spaced Out Radio. Every second Tuesday of the month, Samantha comes in and lends us a helping hand called the ET Experience. Samantha's website is samanthamowat.ca, Mowat spelled M-O-W-A-T. I highly suggest you check it out. Samantha, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're always happy to have you around these parts. Let's get to a question here. John is asking, Samantha, have you requested to return to your Pleiadian kin when you die? Is a physical death here even necessary first?
Yes and no. I have asked to go home when I die, which I think is more than fair, but I have placed a couple of clauses around it. If I don't help raise vibration and consciousness to the point that everyone else is able to escape as well, then I don't see the point in going back just to get over onto that side and get angry that I left and come back again. But a physical death on this end, to go there, no, not necessarily. They could always come get you, but reality of the matter is then that is putting everyone else in jeopardy. So that part doesn't really make sense on that end. But if we are able to change the way that the Earth's path is going with the oligarchy that we have around us and change all that to being on a more benevolent nature, then going back in this physical body is something that is able to happen.
Let's move on to implants.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm implanted because I woke up on the table. There are many people out there who believe they're implanted. How does one tell if they are implanted?
Well, there's a couple different ways that you can tell if you're implanted. First of all is you could get an auric scan done, which is where someone reads your auric field and can tell where you have extraterrestrial and multidimensional implants embedded within the auric field. You could have a scan done on your physical body, such as an X-ray, in which case some of the more primitive implants, depending upon the races, can show up, typically either around the pineal gland or within the skull. Sometimes you have some that are within the hand or at certain areas of the body to assist in organ function, things of that nature. Some people also can have really weird, like astral projection or dream encounters, or remember where they've had multidimensionals or extraterrestrials put implants within their bodies. So there are really a number of ways you can tell if you've had implants, but typically, like if you're just looking at your physical body, you may not necessarily see them unless you wake up one morning and then you notice that, hey, what is this really funny thing in my arm that wasn't there yesterday that I can slightly move, in which case you may have an implant in that area, especially if you dreamt that you had a really funny encounter or something along those lines.
The reason why I ask is there's a lot of people out there who aren't sure whether or not they've been implanted or they've been implanted multiple times. Do you find that once someone figures out they're implanted, that most likely there are more than one in their body?
Typically, yes. I do need to explain one thing around implants very quickly, though. The more benevolent, higher vibrational beings do not need to implant you because they are able to track you through their own psychic abilities, through their own connection to you on a telepathic or energetic level. But the ones that are less spiritually evolved and less psychically evolved will use physical implants as a means of tracking you. And that is where some of the discrepancy about whether extraterrestrials or multidimensionals are benevolent versus malevolent, and why we have this back and forth within the ET community about what the intentions of these beings are. And I do find that, like, when I first discovered that I had an implant within me, I thought, okay, well, I want to get rid of this. I don't agree with having implants. I had beings say to me that we haven't implanted you, so I had made the assumption that because that one group had said that they didn't implant me, that I didn't have any. And I read this really interesting book last year, and it made me question about the energetic implants and the physical implants we can have within us. So I did a very deep meditation, and while I was doing this meditation, I worked my way up from my feet all the way up to the top of my head, and you could feel where certain sections within the body were vibrating at a chaotic level, very small areas that felt like they were out of sync. And when I did this, I realized, okay, I do have energetic implants that when I do my auric scans or when I look at my aura in the morning, I wasn't seeing. And this was a huge surprise for me. And so I said, okay, well, I want to get rid of them. And I told my higher self, all my implants, I want to get rid of every single energetic implant. And when I had made that intention, I got very, very sick in January of this year, sick to the point that I was in bed for a few days and I could barely move. My poor spouse had to take care of me. He brought me food, water, everything I needed, and I barely left my bed for 3 days, Dave. So when you are having these implants coming out of you, and I promise I'll get back to what you had asked in a moment, when you're having these implants coming out of you, it can make you very physically ill because some of the implants that you have within you are actually there for your health and your benefit. But in regards to having the implants being put in you, often when we think of implants, we think, oh no, they're tracking us, they're wanting to keep tabs on us. And yes, in a sense, they do want to know where you are and what your, let's say, your body reading is at. So a lot of implants can send back information about whether you're sick, what your heart rate is like, whether you've been exposed to any new viruses or illnesses that are relevant for them to come do a checkup on you, or whether you've had any near-death experiences, things of that nature. The beings that are tracking these people will typically want to have an idea of if they're not watching that person all the time. So they do work as a transmitter of information. But after I had that period where I was very, very sick, and I do believe I had gotten rid of all my implants, I did have some, I want to say they're less than friendly grays come within a couple days. And I think we talked about this within the last few months about how they took me to that underground area and that other woman and I both got implants put back into us. So
what do you
it really depends. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it really depends on the intention of the different ET races that are interacting with you as to the purpose of the implants.
What do you think of these people out there, Samantha, who say they can extract implants or take them off air, so to speak? Do you buy into that?
I believe some of them are definitely capable of doing such. Would I blindly trust any of them without further investigating and trusting my own intuition? No, not a chance. I would want to have some form of either validation, I guess, not necessarily proof, but say talking to people who are contactees. Let's say I wanted to have my implants removed and I didn't know how. And then I go online and I Google someone who says, yes, I can remove all your implants and I'll do it for the low price of $49.99. Well, before I would pursue the services of that person, I would want to contact people who have had their implants either shut off or removed by them to find out, hey, what was your contact like? Did it stop? What did this person do exactly to stop these beings from coming into contact with you? Having an inquisitive mind is going to help you when it comes to that, but above all, always trust your intuition. If it feels light, then it is something that is more aligned with you, and if it resonates with you, it will feel like something that is easy and something that is comfortable and something that you should pursue. But if you get that feeling of sinking or pulling back or heaviness, then either that's not the right thing for you or that's something that just isn't right in general.
There's always a lot of hoaxers out there. That's the reason why I asked you that question, because there always seems to be someone who is looking to make a buck off of people going through this type of animatronic trauma. Absolutely. So when you see these people, how can the public, if they feel they've been implanted, know who to trust and who not to trust?
Well, the first thing is you do want to trust your intuition above all else, because you need to think of it this way. We are all composed of different amounts of different ET DNA. Everyone on this planet is a hybrid. Let's say you are more of an Anunnaki hybrid, and you're having implants and you're having grays coming to see you. Wouldn't it make more sense that you went to another Anunnaki who is more specialized in removing these implants of this particular group rather than someone whose soul origin is completely different, or someone who may be of the earth itself It wouldn't make sense for someone who's of the earth, who doesn't have contact, to be removing your implants, would it, Dave?
No, I guess that would make sense.
And you want to think about your energy. Does this person that you're going to see, do you have a good feeling about them? We're all incredibly intuitive beings. And if we get these messages all the time, whether something is right for us, whether this is the right person, whether this is something we should be doing. It's just a matter of trusting that the information that we're getting is correct and not allowing for our ego and our logical mind to be like, oh, well, this person charges $49.99, but that one's $599. Clearly, if they're able to charge the $599, they must be better and must be well worth my time because they've got a wait list. That's not necessarily always the case, but I do feel compelled to tell you and your listeners something. If I was able to remove my own implants, and just by connecting to my higher self and raising my frequency, that means the rest of you can do it too. You don't have to go to someone else. You are fully able to heal your own body on your own. You can remove your own implants. It's a matter of trusting yourself and changing your vibrational frequency. You can do this.
Okay, that brings up another interesting point then. How does one change their vibrational frequency if they've never done it before, or maybe don't have someone such as yourself to guide them through it?
Well, there's a number of ways you can change your vibrational frequency. If you're lost about what to do and you're not someone who's normally good with lists, you can just type into Google how to raise your vibrational frequency, or you can YouTube it. Very simple things like increasing the amount of water that you drink and blessing your water. So if you look at all the traditions around the world, all the religious ones, they actually bring up a very good point around food and water, of showing this gratitude, this appreciation. And part of what you're doing when you're blessing your food, or you're showing gratitude for your food, is you're raising the vibration of your food and you're raising the vibration of yourself. When you speak to water, you change the way those crystals within the water actually appear. And those crystals will in turn change the vibration of your body, making it healthier. But getting back to vibration, gratitude is the quickest way to raise your vibration. You could do what I do when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning. I'm like, I'm so grateful for my toothbrush. I'm so grateful for my toothpaste. I'm so grateful for the light in the bathroom, whatever. Just very simple things like that, which may seem kind of silly at first, will raise your vibration and will pull you out of that negative mind loop, which we tend to get stuck in. And it's very easy with all the energetic pollution around us. Another quick way to raise your vibration, go for a walk in nature. Pet your dog. Have a nice cup of tea if you like having tea, or if you're someone who likes to have a nice glass of scotch, have a nice glass of scotch. Do something that truly brings you joy and happiness. And I say one glass. I'm not saying go have a 6-pack and watch Netflix. I'm saying just sit in a moment and appreciate what you are experiencing. Because when you take that time to really focus on what's going on around you, you focus, your vibration changes from being discordant and all over the place to being harmonized and very rhythmic in nature. And that will also change your heart resonance, but that's something completely different that I could just go on about for about 2 hours. So, well, very simple things.
Okay, let's get to Casey's question here, because he's been waiting a while for it. Do you find, Samantha, that most implants are in abductees or contactees?
Abductees. Contactees typically have more experiences with benevolent species of a multidimensional or extraterrestrial nature. Most abductees are experiencing the really malevolent or misunderstood groups that are not necessarily able to communicate with us on a very thorough level. A lot of the Greys do get a bad rep, and I get that. They're not good when it comes to emotion. They are very renowned for attracting people, but they also have a very curious mind, and they don't fully understand how we work, and that's part of why they do the things that they do. When it comes to the contactees, Casey, it's different again, because a lot of contactees don't necessarily need to have implants, but they will have a direct energetic connection or link with the beings they are in contact with. And typically when someone's a contactee, they will also have a partial abductee history. So they will have, like, let's say they have a contact with Pleiadians or benevolent Arcturians or Andromedans. Well, when that person is being contacted by those groups, other groups can become aware that these benevolent groups are coming into contact with this particular person, which can put that person on the radar of the lower vibrational or not necessarily as kind of groups. So when someone can start out as just a contactee as a child, they can start having abductions towards teenagehood and adulthood, which I know makes it a little bit complicated, but people who are just abductees don't seem to meet as many of the kind species.
Follow-up question from Casey. Can a damaged implant cause a frequency noise?
Yes. And if you're resonating between two different vibrations, like let's say, Casey, you're shifting in vibration from being at a denser vibration into a higher one, it can throw off the implants and sometimes cause them to malfunction. But it can also be as you're shifting from one vibration to another that you are hearing these really high-pitched, annoying frequencies for days or weeks on end, which is part of what you're going through.
Let's go over to Eric here. He has a few questions, and you were talking about vibrations a moment ago. Eric is asking, what crystals can raise our vibrations?
Oh, all crystals and rocks can raise your vibration. Some are good for grounding, but they will still help align your vibration to earth. My favorite crystals for raising my vibration are rose quartz, because it balances the heart chakra and it puts you in a more loving mood. Not like sexual loving, but just more of a kinship with all. Amethyst, because amethyst is a very good psychic stone for helping to clear your third eye and to help remove psychic debris. And crystal quartz, or lapis lazuli. And the reason I like quartz crystals is they tend to be more of an energy magnifier. So let's say, Eric, that you're coming home and your home typically is somewhere that's more peaceful. If you have a few pieces of crystal here or there, or even you're having crystals in your pocket, they can help change the vibration that you're emitting and not only clear that energetic debris you're holding on to, but they'll help raise your vibration and hold it at that level, which will make you be clear of thought and healthier and happier. Oh, and Himalayan salt lamps are really good for that too, if you're curious about looking into crystals.
Love my Himalayan salt lamps. Love them.
Me too.
We got them all over the house. Calms
and they're so pretty,
down.
So why not?
And they're a great conversation piece.
Oh, I agree. And you have that massive one that you used to have in your living room. It's huge, people. Like, Dave has one that's like the size of your arms touching. It's massive.
Yes, it's about 85 pounds. Very heavy. Of straight dead weight, too. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Let's get to another question from Eric here. And he is asking, Samantha, do you feel a Faraday cage can defeat the implants? What type of frequency do they use?
I don't know what kind of frequency they use outside of knowing that the vibration feels inconsistent for me and the ones that I've had more in association with grays. For me, they felt like, have you ever had a bug crawling on your skin, like a wasp or something, and you kind of feel it in one area, like it's kind of scratching at your skin? That is what it felt like to me. In regards to the Faraday cage, they are something that I plan on experimenting with within the next year or two. When I buy a house, I want a Faraday cage because I want to see how it changes contact, whether it prevents some of these beings from not only being able to find you, but interact with you, things of that nature. I'm curious about how all of it works. Not because I'm tormented by anyone at this time, but just out of sheer curiosity. Eric, that's something that doesn't seem to be talked about by the majority of extraterrestrial contactees, is whether Faraday cages work. But I did see a advertisement online for a hat that apparently stops implants within the head from transmitting. I'm not sure if that helps you, but that may be something to look into to further, I don't know, satisfy your curious scientific mind.
And let's get to another question from Eric. Are there any indigenous souls that have left or that have their origins on Earth only?
I can't speak so boldly as to say I know the origin of all souls. I believe that there are some indigenous ones that are from Earth. that are original people here that may not necessarily have had lives elsewhere. And that could be why they have such a strong connection to this place, rather than looking up at the stars and feeling a sense of home there. I think it would be... Sorry?
Go ahead.
I think it would be very arrogant for anyone to make grandiose statements about saying, oh, well, all souls are from elsewhere. To me, that's not fair to say when you have not talked to all the souls on this planet.
And we'll get one final question from Eric here. He is asking, Samantha, can you tell whether someone has a human or an extraterrestrial soul?
Typically, when you're sitting with them, you are able to feel the difference. But, Eric, here's one area where it gets a bit complicated. Pleiadians are a form of human. There are other humanoid-type beings as well, like the Venetians, and then you've got the Lyrans. They're also human. So they will feel very similar, but they could feel like someone who's slightly foreign. I'm so sorry, I have to cough. Pardon me. But you can normally feel it within presence. Like, Dave, when you and I have sat down, and you've sat with Mrs. Spaced Out Radio, who has an earth angel soul, you can feel it within her presence. And then you feel the soul of our good friend Pascal, who again has a very strong, almost like animal soul to him, a very earthy, loving soul. And then you feel the soul of me. Can you feel the difference between us? I know I certainly do.
Yes, I know exactly where you're going with this.
Pardon me.
You know, if you are tapped into, and for people who maybe not know what Samantha is mentioning, I think what she's trying to say is, you know, it's the same thing as like when you walk into, or when you drive up to your work and you're in the parking lot and you feel that tension in work that it's going to be a stressful day, or you walk up to someone or someone walks up to you on the street and you're like, oh, I got to stay away from that dude. His energy, just something about him ain't right. That's kind of what she's talking about in picking up the energy of the person.
You can just kind of get to know how certain groups feel. Like, here's a really good way to put it. The majority of people who are more of a reptilian energy soul matrix, or let's say origin, they tend to feel very methodical. They feel like they are very aware of what's going on within them. They feel like they're aware of who's where and what their intentions are. Like, they're a very analyzing, logical being. But then when you feel beings that are more of a Pleiadian mindset, it's different again. They do typically tend to be very sensitive beings. They tend to be very loving in nature, but they also feel like they have this twist, this really playful, kind of sporadic energy too. People tend to think of them as being very calm, and they can be, but I mean, when you get to know their energy signature, it feels like it's kind of playful. In a sense, it reminds me of a toddler's energy. So really, it's getting to know how these different groups feel and learning how to recognize, like, have you ever met someone who, like a Native American, and in particular an elder, like either a shaman or a medicine woman or something along those lines. And when you're talking to them, you feel such a strong connection to the earth, and that strong, it's almost like a very old yet earth. I can't keep saying earth. Guys, what am I trying to say? Thank you. A very calming and peaceful presence that feels connected to its surroundings. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or am I explaining this too psychically?
Oh, just keep going. Keep, let it flow.
Versus, let's say you guys, when you talk to a lawyer, because most of us have talked to a lawyer at one point or another, how you can feel how that person is very analyzing and methodical, and they're very... they're someone who's always taking notes in their mind and always calculating their next move. That's very similar in a lot of ways to reptilian energy. It doesn't mean that all lawyers are reptilians. That's not what I'm saying. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Rather, a lot of the beings can have very similar energies to different professions and the stereotypes that we meet within those professions, because certain energetic and extraterrestrial multidimensional groups are drawn towards certain career paths quite naturally based upon what's more aligned within them. So if you tend to meet someone who's more of a gray energy or a gray starseed or even a gray itself, they will have a very strong plant-based energy. They will feel very similar to things like mushrooms or trees in the sense that they feel kind of grounded in a lot of ways, but they feel like they're looking in 360 directions at once. They feel like they are peaceful, but they also feel like they've got this knowingness around them. It's such a unique and different energy that it also doesn't feel like it has the same degree of emotions that we have. So for me, when I'm encountering these different beings, yes, I'm trying to pay attention to what they're saying and what's going on between us and where I am. But half the time you get so wrapped up in feeling their energy and how it differs from these other different types of beings that it can be kind of overwhelming when you start to take in all these different details. And then when you start to meet people who feel like certain ET races, it can be difficult to judge, okay, well, is this a starseed or is this a ET that's showing, in my mind, a human that looks like this? Really trying to get that distinction as to whether someone's soul is of, your question, Eric, was whether someone's soul is from here or from somewhere else. Yes, you can feel the difference, but it's a matter of learning, okay, is that actually an ET that's masquerading as a human, or is it a human that's a starseed, or is it a human that's had a lot of encounters with these beings and is a partial mix of them? What exactly am I feeling? And it is easier to always feel and read energy in person versus over the phone or over Skype. Yes, you can do it by phone. Yes, you can do it by Skype. Yes, you can do it by text message. But the degree in which you perceive that energy will not be as strong as if you were in person, because you're not having the same energetic disturbances in person that you would have through technology. Thank you for giving me a time to rant.
That's okay. Eric is also asking, does the vibrational frequency of the Earth itself add any distinctiveness to the souls on it, like a Pleiadian vibe, a Terran vibe, or do they just combine without discernible difference?
In my perception, when I just encounter Pleiadians either through astral projection or finding myself on craft with them, they do feel very different than the Pleiadian starseeds that I meet here. Because I do find that once you add in that earth energy, which is it is a very loving energy, but it's a very chaotic, loving energy at this time because of everything that is happening on our planet. Even when you're listening to people, whether it's the Dalai Lama or the Pope or anyone who tends to be typically more peaceful, you will feel a slight chaos behind them because of the energy frequency that we are all picking up on constantly just by being here. So yes, there is a difference, and yes, you can feel it.
Shar is asking if extraterrestrials take pets.
Yes. Judging by that one encounter I had where I saw those very odd-looking German, or gerbil things, not German, and those interesting-looking puppies, I would say they undoubtedly keep some form of pet, although I don't believe they keep them in the same way we do. They don't see a hierarchy within the family of the pet being inferior. They seem to regard those beings as being equal to them.
I wouldn't expect that.
Well, fair enough, but some people might, right?
That's the first time you've dropped a fair enough on this show in a long time.
I don't normally say it, but that's all right.
I'm okay with that. Let's get to Vivian's question, and I want to thank Vivian. This is the first time she's asked a question in the chat room, as she is one of our newer listeners as well. Vivian is asking, Samantha, do you think people can be abducted and not even be aware of it?
Yes. In fact, it's common for many people who are going through abduction to have one encounter something when they're quite small, be it 2, 3, 4, 5, and then not remember it for years, if not possibly the rest of their life. what I've noticed is, yes, abduction tends to be a family affair. So if your family members are having it, chances are you've either had it and it stopped, or you are having it and not remembering. So a very good way to find out if you are having abduction and you're suspecting it is to have a very frank conversation with each of your family members one-on-one a few different times, gradually testing the waters and getting them to open up about any weird experiences that they may have had. Because if you're suspecting it, chances are they are suspecting it as well.
Is it a family trait most of the time?
Typically, yes. And I do think that is a deliberate thing, to be very honest with you. I feel as though the majority of souls who are not from here are the ones that are typically abducted through other soul contracts or things of that nature. And I do feel as though we tend to incarnate in groups for support or understanding. That is my experience, and from most of my friends who are also abductees or contactees, a very similar thing for them as well, although not always the case.
When you get taken, and you say you know, and a lot of people out there don't know, I'm one, when something weird happens to me, I have no clue. I'm just, I don't want to say I'm dumb on the subject, but I just block it out, or they block it out for me, whatever comes first. Do you notice that before or after you are being taken, or when people are being taken, that there is an increase in UFO sightings in the sky for that person?
Typically, when I'm having a lot of cluster encounters, then I will notice a strong increase in the amount of craft I see. Although that said, I found there was a lot more craft being presenting itself for me when I was on Vancouver Island or in Vancouver, rather than now that I'm up here in northern BC. I found that I don't see craft as often up here, although I do see more entities just kind of walking around on a multidimensional level up here. So yes, you can see more craft, but it really depends on where you are.
Do you think that there is a tie-in between how many UFOs people see compared to maybe those who don't see a lot of UFOs and are still being taken as well?
I suspect there could be. I have never really thought too much on it.
How would you break it to someone, and maybe one of your clients, that they are being taken?
Typically when I've had to bring it up, let's say, Dave, I'm sitting down with you, and I'm sitting across from you, and we're doing a reading, and all of a sudden I start seeing these different multidimensional beings. Let's say, name a being, Dave.
Lyrans.
Perfect. Let's say we see a Lyran standing behind you. I would gradually start bringing up things like, hey, your spirit guides are in the room. Can you feel them? And then I'd ask you, okay, great. You can feel them? Perfect. Do you feel behind your left shoulder that really bright, whatever energy I would be perceiving from them right there? And if at first you feel it, do you remember how in the past I've gotten you to take your hand and move it in different areas to where I knew beings were standing to feel the vibrational difference between somewhere where there's not a lot of energy versus somewhere I could see a strong concentration of energy?
Yes.
And how you could not only feel the difference, but it felt like it was either warmer or tingly or cold or something along those lines?
I totally remember.
Well, typically, if I was doing an in-person reading with someone, I would get them to do that. Or if, let's say we're doing a Skype reading, I'd get them to do something similar if I could see the being in front of them, behind them, something along those lines. And then I would get them to meet their guide. Rather than me being the one to flat out break it to them, I would get them to, okay, well, let's feel it. Is it male? Is it female? Is it androgynous? I keep getting the sense that this being may not be from here. What do you see from them? I'm asking, I've asked your guide to make themselves physically known to you. What are you seeing? And typically getting them to work past that little mental barrier of, let's say, angels, because most people think their guides are all just angelic beings in robes with wings. Well, I've never seen anything like that, but that's okay. If it was a Lyran, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. They may be like, oh, I'm seeing like a human, or I'm seeing a part human, part cat being, in which case that's not as big of a shock for someone. as, say, if they've got a benevolent reptilian guiding them, in which case they may just see a lizard. They may not see a bipedal reptilian. They may be showing, let's say, a green lizard instead, something that they'd be comfortable with and could break to them over time. It's not always, depending upon the client, a good idea to be like, hey, that is so cool. Look at all the grays behind you. I had no idea you had so much ET contact. If it's a very Christian, conservative person who's not comfortable with the paranormal but is a little bit more comfortable with angelic beings. So you do have to read your client and gradually get them comfortable with it. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. You always make sense.
Okay, yay, that's good.
But I guess my question is, because people are so nervous about talking about this, and it comes back to what we talked about in the first hour, how do you massage them in order to allow them to speak freely about what possibly could be going on?
Well, the first thing I do whenever I sit down with anyone to have a session is I explain everything that we talk about is completely confidential. To be very honest with you, I will forget within an hour of our reading concluding. So if you don't record it, neither of us is going to know what we talked about. So you're going to have to record it. And then typically, if, like, let's say their guides keep nudging me and they're saying, oh, this person's having contact. This person's having contact. Bring it up. I would say, how should I present it to them? And they may say, can you just tell them a gentle encounter that you've had? In which case, my sessions that are normally an hour could sometimes go to being an hour and a half or 2 hours or sometimes even 3 hours and I'm sorry. Pardon me. Anyways, my sessions can be really long. I'm so sorry for coughing because this person may need to hear a lot. I'm so sorry about that. Wow, I'm talking a lot tonight. Anyways, my sessions can be very, very long. Dave, talk for 1 second, please. I've got to mute this.
Not a problem. Dealing with a little bit of a cough action there. Don't you hate when that happens? That's okay.
Totally.
That's okay. No problem.
Anyway, getting back to it. Sometimes someone can come in to see me for an hour, but our session could be 2 hours or 2.5 or 3, just because they may need to, I may need to tell them some things to make them more comfortable, to make them understand, hey, this is actually quite normal. What you're experiencing has been happening for a long time, and these are beings that are guiding on a multidimensional level that are angelic in nature. And then showing them how, I have had a couple women who are very religious in nature, who didn't believe in extraterrestrials, but just believed in angelic beings. So I've had to explain to them, well, who do you think these angels are? Well, where do you think heaven is exactly? They're like, well, out there. I'm like the stars, the heavens, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, so why couldn't that be a constellation? Why couldn't this be that? Can you see how history kind of changed the perception of what angels were to make people more comfortable? And when I've talked to them about that, they were actually more receptive to the multidimensional contact they were having, because instead of seeing it as ETs that were coming to see them in the night and that were scary, they started to be like, oh, okay, these beings are actually loving and angelic in nature. These beings that I was a little bit afraid of that were appearing slightly invisible, they see as God's angels, but their perception of angels has now been broadened versus the very limited construct that they had believed in previously. And thank you for helping me while I coughed.
Oh, no worries. No worries. That's kind of what I do around here as the show host. Dun, dun, dun. You know.
Good job.
And I've had it happen, too. There's nothing worse than when you lose your voice right in the middle of having to, talk. It just doesn't bode well for radio. Does not bode well at all. So when it comes to people who are being taken, they don't know. We've talked a little bit about the poker chip idea or the quarters, and we have a few people around here who listen to this show who are doing that. And last time you were on, we actually talked with Joe about it and his experiences. Are there any other contraptions or ideas that you have out there that maybe people could use just to see if it is happening to them?
Well, you can ask them to allow you to remember. You could honestly write down on a piece of paper, I want to remember. And I know it may sound funny, but then you could just be like, guides, angels, whatever it is you're connecting to, make them see this, make them aware that I want to remember. And that's what I've done when I found that I was going through like a couple months period where I wasn't remembering my encounters. And then all of a sudden I started remembering again. And then I started to be like, oh God, it was actually nicer not remembering for a while, but that's okay. So that is another option that you can do. You can also, I know this may sound a bit funny to a lot of your viewers or listeners, pardon me, but you are able to communicate with these beings on a heart level or on a telepathic level, especially if you're a contactee or you suspect that you're a contactee because you don't feel the trauma associated with abduction, in which case you are able to tell them, I want to remember. You can either meditate or go for a walk in the woods or anything like that. You will have that connection to them, and if you say, I really want to remember, they will help you. But be aware, be careful what you wish for. You may actually start remembering a lot of your contacts. Dave, I don't typically need to do things to remember my contacts. And so my mind doesn't normally go there. And a lot of people that contact me don't seem to have that issue. So I don't know a lot of devices to do that.
When you have been up on craft or been taken up, have you seen other people there?
Yes, quite a few times. I would say probably, a quarter of my encounters I tend to see other humans. And that's normally okay. Typically people I recognize,
What do you mean recognize?
So I used to go to this group when I lived in Mission, and I've seen women that I know when I've encountered Mantis and have had, different hybrid encounters of that nature going on. I've seen my husband quite a few times on craft. I've seen various family members and friends. Sometimes the other person will remember, and other times they'll be like, hey, I dreamt something about you, and I think we were going somewhere, but I'm not sure where. I'm like, oh, well, it was just an ET encounter, and we were doing this. And they're like, oh, right, okay, thank you. And it's not necessarily, I don't know, it's kind of weird when you encounter people you know on craft, because they aren't always, if they're not a really cognizant and psychically aware person or someone who's used to having control, when they're in that astral projection or physically being taken state, then they can appear quite dazed. They can appear in a trance-like state. It really depends on what is going on with that person, whether you're both there for medical reasons or whether you're there on craft and learning. When I find myself on school and craft, I don't typically recognize half the people that I encounter. I don't know who they are in my day-to-day life, but I tend to be grouped with the same 40 or so people over and over. But it seems like we're normally in smaller groups, up to like 12 or maybe 20 in a class-like setting. And that's where I learned how to manipulate energy and how to do readings and things of that nature, because I was taught by these multidimensional beings more than what I learned in any psychic development or psychic harnessing books. So it's quite interesting when you start to go on the craft and see people and you start to grow with them. But those are the more benevolent ones. I have found in some of my encounters, in particular my MyLab encounters, that I encounter the same people over in that situation again and again, but those tend to be more of my reptilian and gray encounters, and then we find ourselves in these really odd, I hate to say it, but zombie apocalypse scenarios, or typically it's quite end-of-the-world scenarios when you have these MyLab encounters, but that's something completely different again.
What's the difference between an abduction and a MyLab encounter, in your opinion?
An abduction is someone who is taken by extraterrestrials, typically grays, reptilians, things of that nature, and other for just minor testing or genetic experimentation or harvesting of something, things of that nature. A MyLab is an abductee that is abducted on I'm sorry to sound conspiratorial, but a human military level with the work of multidimensional and extraterrestrial beings. MyLabs are people who tend to have a very strong psychic awareness. They tend to be quite fit. They tend to be people who are more of their DNA is activated from what I've noticed. Because the people that I work with and have encountered in that situation time and time again are very psychic. They are people who are not only contactees, they're abductees. It's so different because an abductee will not find themselves in the same love bite scenarios that you'll find my labs in. They won't find themselves being paired off in the same way. My lab is someone who will go through a lot of psychic training, and it's almost like, you know how the military has exercises that they get their people to go through periodically to not only test them but to train them? It is something similar to that, but it is something that you will be quite often pulled out of your physical body and into your astral body and pulled to these locations. You'll find yourself in those deep underground military bases quite frequently, and they're not often pleasant. I would not wish being in my lab on anyone, and it is something that has caused me to have a couple of breakdowns in the past just from some very traumatic and freaky encounters. It's not nice. So, but that's okay.
Is that something you feel comfortable going into topic-wise?
Yeah, of course. There's very little I'm not willing to talk about.
Well, I guess what I'm curious about is when you have the MyLab encounter over the alien abduction, let's say a malevolent alien abduction, physically, is there a difference between both, or do you find one more maybe violent or intrusive than another?
I don't find alien abductions anywhere nearly as intrusive as MyLab ones. In my MyLab encounters have been the ones that have scared me. My MyLab encounters are the ones where I have run. I've tried to escape them. I don't like finding myself with two very large military men on either side of me going down some elevator into a very deep underground base and having experiments done on me and remembering them. I don't like the physical pain that goes along with your body when you're having that degree of either, I'm not sure if it was astrally them just working me or if it was physically as well when it comes to a couple of them. I don't like being put in a situation with the same people over and over, seeing if we can get out of these cities, seeing if we are able to designate our skills and ways to survive. I don't like zombie apocalypse scenarios, and I certainly do not like having such a strong sense of malevolent reptilian energy around me trying to get me to do something. I do not like that, and it makes me very angry, and I'm sorry I'm getting so passionate about it.
You're more than allowed to. That's what we have you here for.
Dave, when you start having MyLab encounters, if any of your listeners ever get to that point, which I certainly hope they don't, it is such a mind-boggling experience because you will often find yourself surrounded by people who are very separated from their consciousness in the sense that they don't have a sense of empathy. They view you as nothing more than a replaceable part in a machine. They have no regard for whether you are hurt, and they will often force you into very dire situations with other people. My least favorite one is when I found myself with 4 other women, and right before I got pulled over to those 4 other women and brought into that, sorry, I should start at the beginning. My guys keep saying beginning. What happened was I went to sleep, and as soon as I closed my eyes, I found myself deep underground. I was in this massive cavernous place. I looked around, and there was a city. I knew right away, okay, I'm on Earth. I couldn't figure out exactly where, but at that time I knew, okay, it's Earth, and it felt like it was a couple kilometers underground. It was a completely pristine-looking city. I could hear children. I could hear literally a lot of typical city aspects, but it felt like it was more organized. And directly in front of me is a man. And although he is wearing a uniform and although he looks like a human, I could tell right away from his energy that he is not human, that he was masquerading as human, that he was full-on reptilian standing in front of me and was projecting an image into my mind. And so I looked at him, and I was very irritated. I said, I know you're not human. And I had expressed that I did not want to be there, but I didn't have a choice. I had to follow him. And he led me to where there were about 3 or 4 other women, and we were being led to a different area when one of the women I was with started getting very panicky. She knew right away that this was something she had encountered numerous times in the past. You can feel the energy of the people you are near. You can tell when they're more psychically aware. You can feel their vibration just oscillating at a faster pace. You can feel them picking up all this information around them. For them to have 5 different reptilians around 4 women who are all very similar in physique, who all feel of the same vibrational nature and capability, really says a lot, because these beings are not small. They are over 7 feet tall typically. They are a couple 100 pounds, and they are pure muscle. They are soldiers. This woman, she was freaking out to such an extent that she had 3 of these beings, one in front, one on either side, walking her away from us. And while she was doing this, I knew to masquerade my energy, to make my energy body very small, to give off the an intimidated vibe, and to stand very close to the woman next to me, who felt like she was also in a slightly fearful state, to merge my vibration with hers. Dave, you know me. I am by no means someone who gets intimidated easily. And when this happened, I grabbed her hand and I said to her, I can't remember whether it was telepathically or whether it was out loud, like as a very gentle whisper, hold on to me, we're leaving, or something along those lines. And I started counting down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I pulled our energy, hers and mine, from the floor we were on up a couple levels. And you can only go so far when you're in this situation. And I know this sounds really weird, but my labs are people who have incredible metaphysical capabilities because they are accessing more of their DNA. And where the majority of society is waking up and becoming more psychic and starting to access our original capabilities, my labs are typically at the front section of that because they are more psychically capable.
And on that note, we're going to hop out for a break here at the top of the hour. More Samantha Mowat with the ET Experience coming up on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Spaced Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Still waiting for the big results of the United States election here on the mighty SOR. Looks like Donald Trump is leading Hillary Clinton. According to the CNN poll, it's 247 to 215. The winner to claim the White House needs 270 electoral votes to win. It is a tight race going down to the wire. We'll see how it pans out, if it pans out, before Spaced Out Radio ends tonight. We want to thank everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.5 FM in New Orleans. Thank you so much for allowing us to be in your home, in your car, wherever you may be. Thank you very much. Glad to have you with us, and we're glad to be a part of your nightly show. If you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell in the SOR Space Travelers Club has set the password. Contrapuntal is your password. Thank you, Bill. Still don't know how to use it in a sentence, but your password for tonight is contrapuntal. Yeah, whatever that means. I don't have time to look at a dictionary, but Bill sets a password every single night on SOR. Use it wisely, Space Travelers. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. We got all the information on there. Listen to some great music from our resident guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, the official music of this show. Read my latest blog. It's on my career in radio and how I got into this. You can also read up on Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire. And if you've had an interesting encounter that you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our investigator, Mike Schmidt, will be with you ASAP to give us the report and the lowdown on what's happening with you. Tonight we bring in Samantha Mowat for the final time tonight. It's always a pleasure to have Samantha on. She comes on the second Tuesday of every month with her show and segment called The ET Experience. Samantha, welcome back.
Hey, Dave. It's so great to be back.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that we have this opportunity to do this every month. Tonight we've really been focusing on ET abduction and contact. Let's get to a question from Robert, all the way down in Australia. And he is asking, Samantha, is it possible that extraterrestrials take the human soul upon death? That might be the 2.2-ounce difference between living and the dead.
That's a really interesting concept. I can't remember who it was that made the quote that death is the ultimate ET experience or something along those lines, but your comment definitely made me think of that. I have seen a few people who have crossed over when I've been on craft, and I'm not sure whether that lends to your theory or question or not, but I don't believe they take everyone, because I have been in communication with some people on the other side, and they're certainly not on craft. They seem to be more wandering spirits than people that are on craft and being multidimensional in nature. They seem to be on a different dimension, but not able to hop between the different vibrational frequencies as many of these beings can. So I'm not sure.
There's a lot of unknown questions when it comes to the contact that extraterrestrials have. And recently, over the last few years, we've been seeing a lot more contact than just the prototypical gray. We're seeing larger grays, smaller grays, humanoid-type beings, mantids. Why do you think the expansion of the amount of species has started happening over the last little while from the typical grays that people were seeing and only reporting on right at the beginning of this phenomena?
Well, Dave, I think there's a few reasons behind it. I do truly believe that we as a species are evolving, and because we are evolving, our vibration is raising, and because our vibration is raising, we are becoming more fascinating to these different beings, not just ETs, but multidimensionals as well. And I also truly believe that we are at a critical time in history. we are entering a new age, or we've entered a new age, depending upon who you ask. The age of Aquarius, which is totally different than the age of Pisces, which we were just in. And because of that, we've also got a lot of things going on with the Earth, with our placement in the galaxy, and our technology is at a point that it hasn't been at perhaps for several thousand years, or if ever, depending upon who it is you talk to about that matter. So you can see why these different beings would be very fascinated by us and where we are now, and why they'd be wanting to make communication with us, and preferably on a benevolent way. We as a species are very warlike and prone to fear. And you can see the reluctance on many ET races, their reluctance in actually being in communication with us without there being healthy boundaries and on a level that we're comfortable with. So to me, it makes sense that many of these beings are coming to a person here, a person there, rather than having all the craft coming in the sky tomorrow with possibly President Donald Trump saying, let's build a wall, right?
Do you think that because all of these different species are coming here, that it might announce to wherever they are in the universe or the multiverse that Earth is open for business, so to speak?
To an extent, yes, but Earth, in my opinion, is somewhere for learning and knowledge. So, in my opinion, from what they've explained to me, this is somewhere that has been a house of knowledge for a very long time that was not really accessible for quite a while for most beings, and that is becoming accessible again. But that's a completely another matter.
Do you think the mild curiosity of everything that goes on here, because obviously these other species, if they're traveling around the galaxies, know what the other species are saying about this place, and do you think that gets them on their, spaceships, for a lack of a better term, to go check out what's going on this planet far, far away?
Well, yes, undoubtedly, because we are actually, I don't mean to toot our own horn here, but we are a very fascinating race. We are comprised of many different types of not only ET DNA within our bodies, but you have all these different starseed origins coming in. And then you look at the fact that our species is evolving and changing. The difference between the children now and our generation and our parents' generation and going back, you can see how not only are we becoming more intelligent, but we're physically, well, not necessarily stronger, but we are mentally more capable. We are less emotional trauma in a lot of ways than we've had previously, how we're really evolving on a psychic level. So this does make us a very interesting species to watch because of the rapid evolutionary growth we are going through. So for many of these beings, not only are they in communication with one another and keeping tabs about what's going on here, but you can see how when you talk to these beings, how they're so fascinated with what's going on with us, but as excited as they are, we're still that unpredictable teenager with our emotions in a lot of ways. So they are trying to be very cautious and logical in the ways that they do approach us. So I'm kind of looking at it from a few different areas going, oh my goodness, perfect time to be incarnated on Earth. How great is this? And although it can seem quite scary to people with what's going on, not only with the election, but with the wars around the world and the seeming of our overpopulation and food scarcity and all that jazz, the beings that we're in contact with or that are looking out for us are seeing us as, okay, how are they going to react to what's going on? What can we do to help raise their vibration, help change them to be more aware of their interconnection? So it's incredible. It really is how much we're on their radar now and how we've changed as a species in the last 200 years.
Do you think that's a good thing for us, or do you think right now it's kind of scary?
I think it's a really good thing that we're changing because think of it, actually for a number of reasons. Dave, I remember a lot of my past lives. I remember a lot of the reasons why I've been killed in the past. Look at what you and I are talking about. Look at what your viewers are listening to. If you even uttered the word you think so-and-so's a witch, or that they have these capabilities, or they can read minds, that would have been enough to get someone killed in the Middle Ages, just on the fear and speculation of the matter. But look at it now. Rather than being so fearful of things that we don't fully understand, we are evolved as a species to the point where it's like, wow, look at that person who's doing this amazing magic trick where they're pulling, let's say, fire out of their hands, or they're levitating, or these people who are able to go months without eating, or whatever it is, these incredible feats of the human experience, these things that they can do. We are changing so much and becoming aware of our capabilities that really, once we begin to focus on what good we can do, rather than living in this point of fear and anger and being disconnected, which we have been up until this point, once we realize our interconnection, things can only get better, and we're getting more interconnected every day. I believe that we are getting better as a species every year. And although things can seem more turbulent, I think it's birth pains or growing pains.
Eric has a question. He is asking, is there a dominant body type, example, bipedal, upright, that is taken more than others?
Do you mean in regards to contactees, or do you mean in regards to the beings that are taking us?
Contactees.
Almost, I can't think of many humans that aren't bipedal, but from what I've noticed, the majority of the beings that are coming to connect with us and talk to us are bipedal. As in regards to the physical body type for people, it depends on which groups are coming to see you. Typically, when it comes to all these beings, I don't know a lot of people that are very unhealthy, like in their physical form, be it overweight or with a lot of diseases, who are contactees. The majority of the contactees and abductees I know tend to be healthier overall than people that have other issues along those lines. That is the main connection that I see between these people, outside of the majority of which being rhesus negative.
Let's get to another question here. This one from the SOR Space Travelers Club. And this one comes from, where is it here? Joe. Joe is asking, I like a good brawl. Is it possible to mentally and or physically resist the aliens or the MyLab people?
Yes. What you are able to do when you find yourself in a lot of MyLab situations, well, if they've taken you astrally, you can try to bilocate your energy, so put your energy in multiple locations around this planet to make it difficult for them to track you, and then you have to kind of shift your energy quite frequently to even newer locations. But when it comes to the ETs, if they're of a malevolent nature, and if they're of something that is not connected to Source, God, whatever it is you wish to call it, Prime Creator, then you're able to connect into that energy force that is love, that is that creation energy. And typically they don't like that vibration. They will back away. You don't necessarily have to use your fist. Although, Dave, you're aware that that works as well with some beings. It may work with graves, but I would not recommend ever physically challenging a reptilian if you see one. I do not think any human could win that match very easily.
You told a story to me earlier when we talked before about the Greys and your latest contact, and I was involved with that. I would love it if you took a couple of minutes to tell that story.
No problem. Let me find it. I've always got my diaries, because if you guys saw the giant amount of contact I have, you would be writing everything down too, or you're not going to remember it. Dave, give me 1 minute to find it. Can we talk about something else while I find it in this giant stack of books?
Let's get to Eric's question here. Have you ever encountered non-humanoid forms?
As in non-bipedal ones? Yes, I have encountered reptilians, which I don't consider to be humanoid in appearance. I do not consider, I consider the coneheads to be humanoid in appearance. I've seen mantis that are a lot more insectoid in appearance than the ones that have legs, although I have seen some that are half mantis on top and have legs like humans, which was a little bit confusing. Let me see here. I have encountered light beings, but they are bipedal, but they do not have any skin, muscle, or bone as we have. They seem to be made up purely of light or of a smoky-like substance, which has always been a little bit interesting. Let me see here. There's actually a lot of really interesting ones. I have encountered some beings that appear like slightly invisible in a sense, and they don't appear to have a physical form that is like humans, although it is bipedal, but it appears more androgynous in nature. So those are the ones that I have encountered offhand that are not humanoid. Sorry, Dave, it'll only take me one more minute to find it.
Problem whatsoever.
Yay, that's good. One thing that I'm trying to do with my YouTube videos with showing people how often contact is occurring for a lot of people, or for people like me at least, is trying to include dates. That way people can see exactly who it is I'm encountering, what's happening, and how often these things tend to be occurring. 1 second. Is this the day of one? Oh, yay, I think I found it. So, Dave, in the encounter that I had that was really odd that did involve you, I've only ever had 2 encounters in my life that were in black and white. And so if you're like me, when you astral project or you lucid dream or even just normal dreams, they're always in very bright, vibrant colors. If you're astral projecting, colors are much more vibrant than when you're lucid dreaming, and lucid dreaming is even a step up from what normal colors are like. It's so when I have a black and white encounter, they really stick in my mind. So what had happened here was I astral projected, and I found myself somewhere that was very colorful at first, and then the energy seemed to shift very quickly. It looked like something almost took a cloak and put it over top of the entire scenario. So I knew, what's up here? This doesn't feel right. Something in this wasn't quite resonating with me. I knew I had been taken from where I'd astral projected to somewhere completely different. And then this area was just black and white, and I looked up to my right, and I realized, okay, I'm outside, and it felt like it was in the autumn, and it felt like it was mid-afternoon. And in the sky, hovering about 100 or so feet above me, was a very common silver craft that I've seen very frequently with a lot of grays. So for those of you who have seen, it's an oval shape. It's completely shiny in the sense that there doesn't seem to be any sign of welding. There appears to be no seams. There is nothing to indicate what's holding this craft together. It's as shiny as a mirror in a lot of ways, so it's very reflective, although it did have a slight silver hue. And as I was looking at this craft, I suddenly discovered that I was wearing this really bright red cloak. And this was odd for me because I've never found that a lot of ETs would change your clothing. So when I found that I was wearing a cloak, and I know that I don't own a red cloak, I felt very odd. And then I don't know why, but they put this really odd black or gray smooth wand in my hand, and I'll get to the significance behind that in a minute. And as I held it continuously in my hand, I was walking down this really empty street towards a veterinary clinic. When I went in the back door, I held this wand up to this device, and it activated the security system momentarily, and then the door unlocked. And I need to mention to your listeners, Dave, that a lot of grays don't seem to have the psychic capabilities to telekinetically change the way electronics are working. And I've come to discover that they will use things to harness their psychic capabilities and use it as a form of amplifier, be it using crystals for healing, crystal beds, wands, things of that nature. And I was a little bit surprised that as I walked into this building, into this clinic, I went straight to the room where all the animals were being caged and awaiting surgery or post-surgery. And the thing that threw me off was I saw cats and dogs. And as soon as I walked in the room, these cages unlocked automatically. And as I'm walking out of this clinic with all these animals following me, and I'm walking into the woods, what threw me off was I encountered you very, very quickly when I walked out into the woods. And you were with this woman, and she had dark hair, and it wasn't Mrs. Spaced Out Radio, and it didn't feel like a romantic connection. It didn't feel like you guys were even supposed to be there. But as soon as I saw you, you asked me where I was going, and when I was about to respond to you, Dave, I got a very clear message from the grays that were in that craft that they were afraid of you, that they did not want you knowing where I was going, that under no circumstances I could bring you towards them, and that I was to immediately bring these animals and to go to this craft. And this felt very odd to me, because normally when I see people I know, I like to, journey with them when you're having encounters, or to stay by them, because you're someone I typically have a sense of security with, not someone I would want to abandon in an odd scenario such as this. And as I'm walking through this forest, I walk up to a field, and waiting in that field is that silver craft that I had seen a few moments before. And the thing that threw me off about this is these animals all were loaded onto the craft, and I don't remember what else happened beyond that. But I find it interesting that these beings were so fearful of you in early January of 2015. I don't know why they were that afraid of you. I don't believe at that point you had your physical encounter with the being yet, had you?
At that point, yes, it had been... Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe not.
That's like, is that 2015? 1 second. Let me check if that's 2015 or 16. Nope, 2016, so you might have had it.
Yeah, I would have had it by then.
So that could explain why those beings were so fearful of you, but I don't fully understand why the Greys would be so interested in animals in that manner. I've seen them very fascinated with plants, and in particular mushrooms and trees, but never with cats and dogs, let alone loading them onto a craft. What do you make of it?
I don't know, because I do recall having the dream, if it was a dream or if I was taken, I do recall having an experience, shall we put it, where, and the only snippet that I know from it is that I got very violent with them. And I know there was about 4 or 5 that I absolutely clocked and got physical with. And then I just remember in that scenario, the last thing I remember after hitting a couple of them was get him back, get him back, get him back. And that's all I remember.
Well, it's funny you say that. And part of what I wonder about is when I had that encounter where I saw you that we were just talking about a minute ago, I remember they got me, like, I didn't feel like it was me that was doing the action, but it was like I was under their control, where they got me to raise this wand towards your head and that woman's head to make you forget why you were there and that you had seen me. So I do find it interesting that they would use a device in that manner, because I've never recalled any of the other beings like having one wands or trying to get us to forget like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I have no idea. I would like to know. I would be very, very interested in knowing what more went on there. But, I mean, if it keeps them, or the malevolent type beings, from taking me, hey, I'll fight them every time.
Well, that's definitely one way to do it, though. But I don't know, Dave. I find it interesting that with some people they would choose to allow for them to forget. So I wonder if it has to do with your DNA activating, that you remember some encounters. And then I also wonder if it has to do with stress and the amount of stress people have. Because I've been stressed for the last 6 months since my family members started dying. And outside of some really malevolent encounters, I've only remembered 2 positive ones lately. That's it. So I think there could be a correlation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. That's the interesting part about it.
That's true, but it does seem with the abduction scenario that a lot of people will find themselves having a lot of really weird activity when they are having abductions or contacts. They're not remembering it. I know that when I was first, well, not when I was first, that's not a way to put it, but when I was a teenager and I was in denial about some of the contact I was having, so I didn't want to believe what was going on was fully happening. Sorry for that squeaking sound, that was not me. But what I found was happening was I would go to bed at night and I would feel these beings outside even before they would come contact me or before they would take me. You would have a sense of this energy, this little ET energy running around outside. And you can feel it when it's moving around the house, how sometimes you're like, I don't want to be in this part of the house right now. I need to get away from this part. I need to go upstairs or I need to go downstairs or something along those lines. And then I often would find that I had these what I thought were really weird ET dreams of these beings walking around the farm I was living on. And it'd be quite odd because I would dream that I was seeing craft hovering above the house or landed in the field or right beside the barn. All these really odd things, but I wanted to not admit that I was different. I wanted to pretend that the things that I had known from when I was younger just weren't necessarily to the extent that they were. Like everyone else, I went through a period of denial. So really, it's such an odd experience to go through, but when you do accept it, life does get easier.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to a question from our audience here. This comes from Shar. She is asking, Samantha, do you believe that all extraterrestrials can shapeshift and become invisible?
No, definitely not. That's more of a multidimensional capability. I do believe that different beings can use technology to cloak, because I know not all reptilians have the capability to become invisible. Some do use cloaking devices to hide them. Although I do find that the more spiritually evolved beings are the ones that are able to become invisible, as well as some of the multidimensional beings which we think are ETs aren't necessarily extraterrestrial. I don't typically see them as being ETs. I typically see them as more of a multidimensional one, and I know they can become invisible quite easily just through their... Okay, I've got an encounter to share with you, and I'll get back to Amanda's part in 1 second. Do you remember when Mrs. Spaced Out Radio had her birthday on the farm? Well, I was driving home after we had her birthday party, and as I was driving home, I noticed that within my car, I had 3 partially invisible entities hop within my vehicle and join me. And that's fine. I didn't really think much of it. But one of them was talking to me telepathically, and he was explaining that in order for beings to really become invisible, they do have to work on their connection to, the energetic frequencies around them. It's not that you're not visible. It's that you're changing your vibrational resonance or your aura to being completely aligned with whatever is around you. And that is why things are able to look at you but not see you. But for those who are paying more attention, you're able to see that there is a disturbance within that area that they are appearing. So let's say, Dave, I'm standing right in front of you, and I'm changing my vibration to being the computer screen, to being the computer desk. I'm able to stand in front of you and not be merged into them, but you could look through me, as long as I was able to hold on to that frequency, that thought pattern. But as soon as they start to flicker with their ability to hold that thought, that is when you can start to see part of a being there for a moment. You may see a hand for a second, or you may see a shadowy outline, or you may see something that's there for a second, then gone, when they have that inability to consistently hold on to that thought and that vibration. And that is what a variety of, it was a white, and it was a taller white that explained that to me, and I thought it was quite an interesting thing for him to share. So, yeah.
I love your experiences. I could sit here and just listen to you talk, and I'll just shut up.
Please don't, because I'm not going to know what area you guys want me to talk about.
I know. It's just the way it goes sometimes. Let's get to another question. Trip is asking, Samantha, what about having a dream-like vision where it's using night vision green?
That I don't know. I've never seen that. You must be on some very interesting dimension, though, if you're just seeing night vision green when you're viewing things in a dream state. Trip, I need to mention one thing. When you go to sleep and you astral project, you can go to areas of your subconscious mind, which are of your own creation, which is when you have more of like a lucid dream experience or just relive the day's events, things of that nature. Or you're able to go to higher or lower vibrational dimensions, because quite often when we dream, we dimensional hop. You may have gone to a dimension that a lot of people haven't explored, and that may have been why you're seeing everything in night vision green. I don't know what to make of that one. How did you feel when you had that experience? Do you see anything interesting or memorable? That is what I would look for out of that situation. Did you see other beings? Did you take note of the homes? Because you want to look when you go into a dreamlike state. One thing I do that kind of sounds a little bit silly. When I go to sleep, and even throughout the day, I'm constantly looking at clocks or things that give me an indication of time. Because if you find yourself astral projecting, time doesn't really work. It doesn't look right. You can see numbers being gobbledygook or just random things that don't make sense, like all dashes or all zeros. And one thing you want to do is when you find yourself in these really weird encounters, look for things like clocks or watches or picture frames, because the information within them should give you an idea about where you are and whether you're projecting or not.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about this election.
Okay.
Do you believe, and I realize, and I want to explain to somebody or everybody out there, Samantha is not someone who follows a lot of day-to-day living. She's got her own thing going on that is hard enough for her to, put all together in 24 hours rather than having time to watch, any sports or anything political or anything like that. But when it comes to this election, Samantha, do you think extraterrestrials watch something like this or follow something like this?
Oh, undoubtedly. I can almost guarantee it. A lot of the people, oh, by the way, Trump won.
Yes.
A lot of the people that, a lot of the beings that we end up encountering are aware of what's happening on Earth because they know what the different people are expecting, like what the humans are expecting that are not in positions of power, and then they know what the people that are in power, what their objectives are. And I don't mean our politicians, I don't mean our prime ministers, I mean people that are actually in power, what their objectives are, and how most of the people that are in quote-unquote positions of power are just different masks on a mannequin. They are just performing a role. They are not truly the ones in charge. The main things that they've explained to me around paying attention to politics is they kind of watch the energy of where not only where our media is taking us and where our leaders are taking us, but they look at how we're reacting to the different things that are being expressed throughout these avenues. They really watch our energy as much as they watch our actions and our words, Dave.
I guess the reason why I'm asking is Hillary Clinton's right-hand man, John Podesta, joined her campaign strictly. One of the rules that he put in his contract was that she would have to disclose. And yet Donald Trump, who is about to become president of the United States, if we can call that right here, okay, here's someone who really never got into the alien debate, never brought it up during his campaign, although Hillary did in May and June, and really doesn't seem to be very interested in something like that. So how would that affect any off-worlders looking at this?
Well, they do look at it in two different ways. For most of the extraterrestrial multidimensional beings, they look at the trajectory that humans have been going on and off for the last, let's say, 70 years. When was World War II? 70 years ago? Yeah, about that. They look at that and they want to keep us on a benevolent timeline. In order to do that, they do feel as though part of their interaction with us, it has to be done in a benevolent form without there being a fear-mongering state around it. Because as it stands, our world is going into jeopardy. We are polluting it at a rate that is not possibly sustainable. And most of the beings look at what's going on here and they want to help save our planet. In order to help save our planet and get us to be more conscious of what we're doing, they feel as though interaction with them is necessary to get it back on a healthier avenue. Getting back to your question, that's why they'd be more attentive as to, okay, did they choose to allow for Hillary to be the one to go into power and for disclosure to come forward? Okay, no, they had chosen for Donald Trump to come through instead. Okay, well, in which case we have to modify our objectives with the people we contact, with the beings that we have now incarnating, so coming onto this planet. Dave, when I talk about starseeds, many of the ETs that we're in contact with, they have their family members, their good friends, the beings that they have known on their homeworlds incarnating on our planet as humans, living amongst our population. And they are trying to help change things from the inside. And although they are trying to get those people more into positions of changing things, they don't, these beings, the multidimensionals and extraterrestrials, still really struggle with understanding how we do things. Because a lot of what we do is very backwards and very illogical. They don't have the same understanding of why men are predominantly in power on this planet and women are not, and why children do not have a voice as much as they should. They don't understand stuff like that. So with them, when they're watching how we as a society have allowed for, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be too controversial, but for Trump to get in with his very, I'm not saying Hillary's a saint, please don't take me to be saying that, but with his sexist remarks and his racist remarks, his homophobic remarks and things of that nature, they view it as, okay, so where are the humans at this time? So they're constantly trying to evaluate that. I can see how it's stressful for them.
Yeah, and it's just as stressful as people here. I mean, I guess what it comes down to is, do they follow, whether it's the United States, Russia, or anybody, do they follow the line of power, or do humans have a say if disclosure was to happen, or whether it should not happen?
Humans definitely have a say as to whether disclosure could happen, although in order for enough people to really band together to make disclosure happen, you have to have this degree of people not really paying attention to football or when The Walking Dead is coming back out or things of that nature. They need to reevaluate their priorities of what they want to know and really seek their sovereignty, which at this time, most people aren't seeking sovereignty and true freedom. They want the illusion of freedom. And that's part of what's going on and part of what's really confusing these beings. When I've talked to them, when I'm on craft, and they're showing me the importance of, hey, you need to communicate with the plants, you need to communicate with these animals, you need to learn how to telepathically communicate with each other and share how you can feel each other's energy and emotions and create those lines of connection between you and the other humans. When I try to explain to them, hey, look, normal people aren't doing this. They are numb psychically, that they're not feeling the energy coming from other people, that they're not feeling the energy coming out of plants or coming out of their dog. They get a little bit confused because they don't fully have that understanding of why we're so numb to these things. So it is a bit of a learning curve for them.
I just want to update breaking news. Hillary Clinton has called Donald Trump to concede the election. So the new United States president is Donald Trump. So there we go. Congratulations to the United States if that's who you voted for. And if you were threatening to come to Canada, leave your guns, your anxiety, and your paranoia on your side of the border, and then come on in. Let's go for a Timmy's. Let's go for a skate when the snow actually starts. Yeah.
And we'd love to have you. It'll be great. We'll all go skiing and go surfing.
Absolutely.
It's perfect.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I love it. We'll all go to Tim Hortons. Perfect. Ice cap.
You know what? I haven't had an ice cap in a year.
Oh my God, has it been that long?
It has.
Congratulations. Good job.
Yes. Yes, and trust me, I still get the cravings. If you haven't had a Tim Hortons ice cap, find a Tim Hortons, get an ice cap. They are literally to die for. They are music in your mouth, and everyone is invited. It is that good.
They are pretty incredible. I've got to admit.
Yes, they are. So,
but Dave, one thing I do need to say about this whole election thing around the ETs, they don't do politics in the same way we do. They really don't. They tend to try to view, well, the benevolent ones try to view everything in a very, what is best for the all, rather than what is just good for one small individual group. So it's quite interesting how their minds work so differently than ours. I like it.
What the heck? You know what? Here we are. It's kind of exciting, you know, and this is totally off the topic of extraterrestrials, but it's kind of exciting to be on the air for as big or as small as our audience can be at times during during history.
It is pretty huge. I mean, wow. I'm surprised Trump got in, but hey, cool. Let's see where this goes.
Well, you know what? There's a whole conspiracy side to the if Hillary would have won. And I don't know if I was ready for 4 years of broadcasting all sorts of Hillary, death wish, kill count, extraterrestrials. I don't know if I was ready for that. You know, you have to stretch to get ready for that. You have to make sure that you're ready for something that big. It's just weird. It's just absolutely weird. And you know what? That's the beautiful part of radio, is it's in the now, and you're able to be a part of those situations when it happens. And that's where we are right now. And if he does any good, if he doesn't, we'll still always remember this moment. It's emotional. It's emotional.
It is, but realistically, no matter who wins these elections, we do have to send them love. We have to try to send that kind energy to them. That way they help make decisions that are beneficial for all of us, and to help have that connection with them, because some members of your listenership are going to be very emotional and sad right now and very angry at what happened. And it's important that we look at this as, well, if we want for change to come, and we want it to be good change, even if our enemy wins, in some cases, doesn't matter who the enemy is, but even when your enemy wins, you still have to send them love and realize that they are connected to you. And because they are connected to you, that also means that you've won as well. And to help change their choices by really focusing on that connection energy, that love energy, which people forget about. Or at least I think that's important.
I totally agree. And what will happen here, and I've just made an executive decision, when Donald Trump, the new president of the United States, comes on to talk live, we will run it live on this show, because we're able to do that. So it's kind of cool.
Nice.
Well, you know what? I think it's one of those things where you have to capture the moment. That's the old journalist inside of me, Samantha. See, you don't know that side. You never met me back in that day.
No, I didn't. I've only known you for a couple of years. But we've had some pretty interesting things happen in that time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's really nice that our first meeting, going back, way back, was 20 minutes after meeting you. Hey, let's go look at an extraterrestrial. What do you say, Dave? What the hell? What the hell? Don't know you from Adam, but here we go. And you know what? It was a nice bonding moment. Nice bonding moment.
Dave, the one thing I really remember about before that encounter is you saying, you can come with me, and I'm pointing at the owner of the house saying, but you can't come with me, and I'm pointing to Mrs. Space Radio and saying, and you can't come with me, and let's go now. It's like, okay, let's go.
Uh-huh. I know.
It's pretty fun.
Yes. I'm sure I looked very, very strange at that point.
Well, I don't think you really take the cake for the strangest thing we saw that day, but that's okay.
No, exactly. Exactly. And, you know, that's probably the biggest one. For people who, and Joe, I'm going to get to your question momentarily, for people who are listening in for the first time or haven't heard Samantha speak before on Spaced Out Radio, what we're talking about is back on April 10th, 2014, the day I actually met Samantha. It came 5 days after I had witnessed a UFO landing, and I was still scattered-brained over this. And I meet this pixie of a redhead who has all this ET contact, and, you know, I'm still buzzing. Like, I barely slept in 5 days, because you just don't sleep when you have an encounter like that for the first time. So I meet her, and 20 minutes in, she can see me, you know, always looking outside. I'm walking around. I'm looking nervous and everything, and she knows I want to go outside. She absolutely knows. And I tell her what happened 5 days previous, and Samantha's like, well, do you want to come? Do you want me to go with you? Yeah, sure. So I go show her the spot, and then she starts picking up something in the forest behind the property. And that's where we came in contact with a couple of extraterrestrial beings at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And there wasn't a cloud in the sky, not a plane in the sky, not even a bird making noise. But there they were, and here I was, thank you to Samantha, staring down a 10 to 12-foot extraterrestrial being about 200 feet away from me. It was kind of life-altering. That was my introduction to Samantha Mowat. Anyhow, let's get to Joe's question. Joe is asking, can a sudden and unexplained illness be blamed on aliens tinkering around with us? A few years ago, I was healthy as I have ever been in my life. Then I came down with a rare form of pneumonia, lost a third of my body weight, 8 operations, 3 months in the hospital, died once in the hospital. But the good part about it is his hair stayed beautifully flowing.
Yes, you can actually associate that with some forms of extraterrestrial multidimensional contact. I have found that I was typically quite healthy, and then I had this really odd encounter, and since then I seem to be having issues with bronchitis going and coming back every few months. So I do know that certain ETs, when they do different tests on you, can throw off your health. And you are probably wondering, okay, so why don't different ET beings heal you? Well, whenever I see them, I seem to forget to ask, and it's nothing I can't manage, so I don't see the point in asking half the time.
Samantha, I'm going to get you to hold on 1 second here. We're going to go live to President Donald Trump's election speech for a couple of minutes.
I just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory. And I congratulated her and her family on a very, very hard-fought campaign. I mean, she fought very hard. Hillary has worked very long and very hard over a long period of time, and we owe her a major debt of gratitude for her service to our country. I mean that very sincerely. Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. Have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people. Time. I pledge to every citizen of our land that I will be president for all Americans, and this is so important to me. For those who have chosen not to support me in the past, of which there were a few people, I'm reaching out to you for your guidance and your help so that we can work together and unify our great country. As I've said from the beginning, ours was not a campaign, but rather an incredible and great movement made up of millions of hardworking men and women who love their country and want a better, brighter future for themselves and for their family. It's a movement comprised of Americans from all races, religions, backgrounds, and beliefs who want and expect our government to serve the people, and serve the people it will. Working together, we will begin the urgent task of rebuilding our nation and renewing the American dream. I've spent my entire life in business looking at the untapped potential in projects and in people all over the world. That is now what I want to do for our country. Tremendous potential. I've gotten to know our country so well. Tremendous potential. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Every single American will have the opportunity to realize his or her fullest potential. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. We are going to fix our inner cities and rebuild our highways, bridges, tunnels, airports, schools, hospitals. We're going to rebuild our infrastructure, which will become, by the way, second to none. And we will put millions of our people to work as we rebuild it. We will also finally take care of our great veterans. We've been so loyal, and I've gotten to know so many over this 18-month journey. The time I've spent with them during this campaign has been among my greatest honors. Our veterans are incredible people. We will embark upon a project of national growth and renewal. I will harness the creative talents of our people, and we will call upon the best and brightest to leverage their tremendous talent for the benefit of all. It's going to happen. We have a great economic plan. We will double our growth and have the strongest economy anywhere in the world. At the same time, we will get along with all other nations willing to get along with us. They will be. We'll have great relationships. We expect to have great relationships. No dream is too big. No challenge is too great. Nothing we want for our future is beyond our reach. America will no longer settle for anything less than the best. We must reclaim our country's destiny and dream big and bold and daring. We have to do that. We're going to dream of things for our country, and beautiful things and successful things once again. I want to tell the world community that while we will always put America's interests first, we will deal fairly with everyone, all people and all other nations. We will seek common ground, not hostility, partnership, not conflict. And now, I'd like to take this moment to thank some of the people who really helped me with this, what they are calling tonight, very, very historic victory.
And that was Donald Trump's victory speech after beating Hillary Clinton in the United States presidential election. So far, although all the ballots are not in just yet, Donald Trump needed 270 to win. He has 288 electoral votes. And you picked him, United States. Hopefully you got the right guy and not the wrong woman. We go from there. Samantha Mowat, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio. I apologize for cutting you off there, but it's kind of a historic moment.
Oh, yeah, I've never seen someone put up so many 666 hand gestures in my life. Wow. Well, it's going to be an interesting 4 years.
Well, he does have really good hair. Very nice hair. And you know
all right, yeah.
I'm a hair guy. Samantha, you hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up here because it is time for me to wrap it up. Samantha Mowat comes on Spaced Out Radio every second Tuesday of the month. Her next appearance will be on December 13th. Can you believe it? December coming up the next time we hear from lovely Samantha. But it'll be good. We'll come up with another great show with her once again. I want to say thank you to everyone listening in the Space Out Radio chat rooms, SOR Space Travelers on Revolution Radio, and our brand new network associate, United Public Radio Network, live on 107.5 FM in New Orleans. Appreciate all of you. If you want to listen to this show or any of our others on our archives, you can go to YouTube, Spaced Out Radio Show, tune us in on TuneIn, or you can download this show and others on iTunes. We appreciate you taking the time. Tomorrow night on the show, Ronald Murphy will join us. The Crypto Guru is back. We're going to get into some cryptids. Once again, thank you so much for being with us. We do it every night of the week, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. Do me a favor, if you would. Just one. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend. Get them to tune in. Let's build this audience bigger, stronger, and I want to get to know you. Bring your friends in so they can get to know me and our awesome audience. We can't do this without you. SpaceOutRadio.com is our website. Once again, thank you so much. I will talk to you in exactly 21 hours from now. Have a good one, people. Much love to y'all.